Okay, are we about ready, everybody? Ron, is IT folks all set? Everybody's go? All right. Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is our April 7th, 2021 regular city council meeting. It is 6:01, and I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. We do have our plexiglass dividers between us, and we're social distance, so I'm going to remove my mask so we can be heard. And Madam Clerk, let's see. Actually, let me read this first before we call roll. Anyone who's watching this meeting, if you'd like to provide public comments, you must register to speak by emailing publiccomments@cityofmenifee.us prior to the item being heard. Be sure to identify which items you'd like to speak on. If you will receive instructions on how to participate during the meeting. And I believe our city attorney's online with us. Mr. Melching, do we have anything to report from closed session if you can hear us?
No, Mayor, there's no reportable action tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, Madam Clerk, would you call roll, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilmember Dynas?
Here.
Councilmember Carwin is absent. Councilmember Leesmeyer?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Sobek?
Here.
And Mayor Zimmerman?
And I'm here. Thank you. Let's move to item 3. This is words of inspiration, and I believe we have Pastor Tony Truax from Hope Christian Church to give our words of inspiration by way of Zoom, but I'm seeing IT folks are saying he's not connected. So, all right. So I'm going to ask any council members would like to give some words of inspiration or an invocation.
I'll be happy to.
All right. Thank you, council members. Mayor Pro Tem Sobek.
I'm just sorry that we didn't get to hear from Pastor Truax. I know I had communicated with him earlier when we got the agenda, and I know he was planning on attending, so we will get him again, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Our dear Father in heaven, we are grateful for this land of the free that we live in. We are grateful, Father, for all of those who serve in our community to help keep us safe. We're grateful for our city staff. We're grateful for our police officers, our firefighters. And we ask thee this night that that thy spirit will be with us as a city council, that you will guide us and decisions that we make, that we will be mindful of those that we've lost during the coronavirus pandemic, that you'll continue to watch over our city and keep our officers safe on the streets, keep our firefighters safe, and bless all of those who work so hard for our citizens. And these things we say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for those words of inspiration. We will now move to our Pledge of Allegiance, and if Councilman Leesmeyer would lead us, please.
Sure. Please join me in saluting our nation's flag. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. We are now on item 5. This is our presentations, and 5.1 is a COVID-19 update, and it also includes a city reopening plan, which is something the council members have been asking for. So I'll turn it over to our city manager, Mr. Villa, to introduce the item.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. We're actually going to have a PowerPoint presentation for you, and this is going to be presented by our risk manager, emergency manager, Robert Cardenas. Thank you.
I'll go get it.
All right, welcome, Mr. Cardenas.
Great. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, and staff. As Armando mentioned, my name is Robert Cardenas. I serve as the Risk Manager for the City of Menifee. During the last COVID presentation, Council requested that staff bring back a reopening plan. Tonight, I will provide an overview of that plan with the proposed reopen date of April 12th. Yesterday, Governor Newsom announced that the state aims to fully reopen on June 15th of this year. In the interim, cities are required to abide by the state's color-coded tier system, which is based on case rates and positivity rates. Yesterday, the County of Riverside moved to the red tier, which is substantial, and the orange from the red tier to the orange tier, which is moderate. Given this fluctuation and other contributing factors, neighboring cities in the Southwest region have begun to reopen. Taking a look at our neighboring cities with regards to staffing, 3 are offering alternating work schedules, 1 is offering telecommuting on an as-needed basis, and 2 are requiring all staff to be back at 100%. With regards to City Hall opening, 4 are fully open to the public. 1 is open to the public with appointment, and 1 is not open to the public. And finally, when it comes to council meetings, 5 are open virtually, 1 is allowing limited attendees. Now, the goals for the reopening plan include the following. The plan is based on California's color-coded tier assignments. It addresses the fluctuations in the tiers and ensures sufficient staff are available and ready to serve the public. And it is designed to prevent, reduce, and eliminate exposure to employees and to the public we serve through the implementation of recommended control measures. As we transition to in-person services, I want to take a moment to illustrate the continuation of city service in a COVID environment. With regards to planning-related counter customers and building and safety-related inspections, permits, and single-family residences, we are on track to meet or exceed prior fiscal year numbers. Also, the city's Public Works Engineering Department has continued to provide services throughout the pandemic, including an increased work order completion rate, as well as increased engineering surveys, submittals, and permits. Similarly, with regards to the senior meal program, Audi Ranch, skate park use, and in-person virtual class offerings, participation in community service programs remains strong. Now to some of the specifics of the plan. With regards to the hours of operation, this plan allows the city to remain in compliance with the state's capacity requirements while offering in-person services. Therefore, in addition to the currently available telephone and virtual services, the city will again offer in-person services in the orange and yellow tiers. More specifically, in both the orange and yellow tiers, we will continue to offer virtual services Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. In addition, we will offer in-person services Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. by appointment with a 9-person capacity. With regards to the hours of operation for the Menifee PD lobby area, it will be open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. with a 6-person capacity. On Fridays, the lobby hours will be from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. With regards to the hours of operations for community services, in addition to the currently available telephone and virtual services, community services will again offer in-person services. More specifically, in both the orange and yellow tiers, community services will continue to offer virtual services Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. In addition, the CSD administrative offices will offer in-person registration services Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. with a 3-person capacity. Also, community services will continue to expand indoor and outdoor programming for all ages as state guidelines and facility space allows. With regards to council and commission meetings in both the orange and yellow tiers, the public may continue to participate virtually. In-person council commission meetings will be available for up to 9 members of the public based on 6 feet social distancing as illustrated on your screen and on the floor. So we've provided an example of what that would look like. Individuals interested in participating in person to either speak or observe may reserve a seat in advance. A limited number of seats will be made available for individuals on a first-come, first-served basis as well. A police officer will be present in the council chambers for city council meetings. Now, consistent with the color-coded tier assignments and Cal OSHA regulations, we will continue to staff at 50%, encourage employees to telecommute where possible, and require social distancing, disinfecting, and wearing masks. Finally, although there are a few challenges inherent with any reopening plan, we are confident this plan will assist operations in adjusting to tier fluctuations due to spikes and the like, and assist in adjusting to any color-coded tier definition changes. This concludes my report. Staff is available to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cardenas. If you wouldn't mind, let's put the PowerPoint back up again, so that we can, and if we can back up to the one that said community services, probably there, right there. It says facility information in the moderate social distancing capacity 3. Can you explain what that means?
Yes, I have here Jonathan Nix, and he'll be available to answer those questions.
Thank you. Just curious what the 3 means. Welcome, Mr. Nix.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The social distancing capacity of 3, that's only for the lobby. Okay. So we have a lot of programs that are already operating. We have the skate park open. We're doing some indoor programming for the displaced kids for Lazy Creek because, the facility's under construction. We're going to start looking at operating some senior programming indoor later this month. Still continuing with the senior food program, that kind of thing. But that is just for our small lobby there.
Okay. It should say 3 in the lobby, but the Palm Room and the Magnolia Room.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And all of those would allow more than 3.
Yeah, we'll do a better job with that. We do have lobby on the kind of the gray first column, but yeah, those other areas we're.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, sorry about that. We should have made that a little more clear, but definitely those bigger rooms that you noted, we're fully operating those as much as we can.
Excellent. And then, Robert, if you can go another slide forward. I think there's a question there, but maybe other council members might have some other questions as well. I can't remember what it was. So I'll open it up. The floor is open, you guys.
If we can go back to that slide of the council chamber, I do have a question, because I do see the chairs that you had them separated, and I see that they're, I would say, 12, 15 feet apart. And I know the schools have lowered it to 3 feet apart, and I was wondering if it might be possible that maybe we can have 15 instead of 9 in the council chamber. I know a lot of individuals are getting the vaccine as well. Just so that we can serve our community. So that's a question
Certainly.
I have.
We can. We did take out a measuring tape, but included in that and on the screen, we also have additional seating on the side that is designated as staff seating, which we can also make available on an as-needed basis for anybody in the public, because we don't always have to have staff in this area as well, so we'll make the public a priority.
Okay, thank you.
And Robert, when we get to June and the governor is now telling us that he expects the blueprint tier system to go away, and it'll be everything based off of hospitalization numbers and things like that. Do we anticipate at that point we'd be able to fully reopen and set the chairs up the way we had prior to COVID?
That is the expectation. It's my understanding, even on that date, should we meet all of our markers, there still may be some mask wearing that's required, but the social distancing will go away.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Leesmeyer?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Just a couple of questions, then I had some comments later, but the plan that you're proposing right now, that is directly in line with the state's requirements?
Correct.
So with what you've demonstrated with the other cities, for example, like Murrieta, all staff are back to work. It's a little bit different than what we're doing. Is that to say that they're not compliant with the state's requirements? They're going beyond the state's requirements?
I haven't reached out to those other cities to determine what operational decisions they made, but just at face value, it does appear that we are in compliance. And if they're allowing people to come back in, then it would appear that they're probably not in compliance.
Okay. And then I just briefly got the report right before council, so I was having a little bit of difficulty following along with the community services plan. It seemed kind of convoluted to me. I was wondering if we could go back to that slide.
Yeah, and are you also referring to the attachment on the actual plan?
Yeah, attachment A, right.
Okay, so I also have here Mariana who can walk us through that attachment.
Good evening. So do you have any specific questions regarding the type of programming?
Well, I think generally I'm just overall I'm looking to see a lot more progress than this. So I'm hoping you can explain this to me so that it sounds better than it looks. 25% capacity is not what the orange tier is about. So I'm trying to understand the logic.
Well, currently with our programming, I'm sorry. Apologize for that. With our programming, we are looking to expand as much as we can as the guidance allows us to. And one of the things that we're coming up against is the lack of facility space. So with Lazy Creek being out of commission for us, we are currently hosting in-person programming for Lazy Creek participants that have been displaced because of the closure. They are currently in our Case and Acero Center in the Magnolia Room because of the cohorting mandates. But for the rest of our programming, we are working towards expanding indoor and outdoor programming for all ages. So that includes our contract classes, our senior programming. And given that we've just entered the orange tier, working with staff, we've kind of set the timeline of April 26th as a start date for expanded programming, both at the Case and Acero Center and at multiple parks and different locations, so that we can give something for our residents to participate in as we enter into the warmer months. So that 25% for the orange tier is looking for indoor type locations, but we can definitely do a lot more in outdoor locations given the updated guidelines that were just recently released, which will allow us to do gatherings and events outdoors up to 100 people in orange tier, given an outdoor location. So that's kind of the guidelines that we're also going to be looking at in order to expand programming.
So then down at facilities, you have park shelter rentals, 25% capacity. Does that mean you have 25% of them open, or I mean, I can't imagine how you calculate occupant load underneath a patio cover, so I'm assuming that means 25% of them are available?
No, actually, that originally that was supposed to be 25% capacity, but given the new updated guidelines that were just released on April 2nd, the capacity for our park shelters in the orange tier is going to be up to 50%. I'm sorry, not 50%, 50 individuals. So that's the new gatherings guidelines. So most of our park shelters range between 20 and 30. Some of our bigger ones, maximum capacity is at 60. So definitely the majority of our park shelters after the start date is April 15th. After April 15th, our residents should be able to come in and start utilizing those more actively.
Okay. And then with respects to the senior meal program, How long are we talking about continuing the senior meal program?
With the senior meal program, we have to work with our service providers. So we work currently with the Family Service Association, FSA, and also with the Riverside County Office on Aging. So it kind of depended upon when they're ready to move from the frozen meals, the 5-pack frozen meals that we're currently serving in the program into congregate meals. So we're in talks. There's going to be a meeting with the Riverside Office on Aging within the next couple weeks to discuss what that looks like for them. And then again, we can move towards winding down the distribution program and moving towards congregate meal. But we're still kind of working out the details on that.
And I'll ask the same question I asked last time. How's that program working right now? Do you still see a lot of use for the program?
Yes, we're still getting a lot of use. I think the issue is going to be that there's varying levels of comfort for people to come in and either eat a meal with other people, mix households, things of that nature. So we will likely be offering the distribution program longer than maybe we can open up quicker than we will be able to offer it. But we are still averaging 180 meals a day.
Okay, so I'm kind of scratching my head here. Can somebody remind me what the premise was for starting the senior meal program like this?
The premise was to help our seniors who were limited or they're a vulnerable population. So we're giving them the opportunity to drive through to pick up their meals as opposed to entering into a restaurant or going into an area that they may feel uncomfortable, kind of reducing the risk of contracting COVID.
So I'm trying really hard not to sound insensitive to our senior population. I'm just globally worried about everybody's dependence on government. I would like to find a way to phase out of that and get people back on their own, taking care of themselves. Because as we continue to open, you're going to face staffing challenges. As you continue to operate more programs, you're not going to be able to do both. So something's going to suffer.
To address the first question, we were very fortunate to get those additional meals from FSA. As we usually do displayed on the slide, we are doing like 80 to 100 meals per day. And of course, we've been able to almost double that. And those meals are provided for free through the County Office on Aging and FSA. So those are the conversations we're having, is really that meal availability. And we've been filling the gaps, working with the businesses to buy additional meals. But to your point, we've been able to do that with the additional COVID funding. So as we progress and we're able to open the senior center and offer the meals regularly, and as the meal availability is reduced, we'll probably kind of have to taper that out and provide that communication to the seniors on that meal availability. We're hoping that once we get more information from Office on Aging and FSA, that we could do that ahead of time, and it's a gradual slowdown. It's not just a drop back down to half of what we're doing now.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a comment on that. I'm aware that we know that the state a few years ago got rid of Meals on Wheels, and it's just not available. And I know that we've had a senior population here that has requested Meals on Wheels. I know you've provided the lunch in-house at the senior center, which has been great. And I know that for several and many seniors, the delivery meals has truly benefited their health and their lives. So I actually would like maybe a recap or to see what the real need is for those who cannot get out, who really would benefit from a city Meals on Wheels type of program. As long as we have the funding, if we're getting the CARES Act funding from the federal government, that we look to see maybe how long we can supply some of those meals for those really in need. So
Yeah, I would agree. I think the balance that I'm trying to find is for those people that, like you said, that really need it versus the people that, I mean, you give anybody something for free, they're going to take it. So we need to figure out what the balance is. And for me, the balance is, we're opening up programs, we're opening up the city, we're opening things up, we're not gonna have the staffing to continue doing that. And if I recall, the program was kind of born out of closing the center and not being able to provide the lunch, the free lunch in-house, so.
Well, it's not free. They do, is it $3?
It's suggested donation.
Suggested donation for the meals. And I know that I've gone there and had lunch before with some, I haven't eaten, but I've visited them during the lunchtime. And many of the comments are, this is the only socialization that I get. So I know that's a need.
Absolutely.
And, but I also know that we have a lot of shut-ins that aren't getting the proper nutrition. In fact, I have an experience with my neighbor firsthand. I told him about the program. He had mentioned that he was getting tired of eating Del Taco food. That was all he could afford. And he signed up for the program and has benefited tremendously. He let me know that because of the food program, he feels like he's eating healthier. And maybe now that he knows about it, he'll come into the senior center. I think it's brought awareness. There might be opportunities for more seniors to come into the senior center to take advantage of the program that FSH provides.
Certainly.
If I may, as part of our transition plan that I forgot to cover earlier is, as we're making that transition progression, we're also surveying the seniors to see how comfortable are you with coming back once we have it open again, and trying to differentiate between folks that maybe didn't use the program before because they are truly those shut-in folks that wouldn't normally come in, to kind of look at what population might still benefit from a Meals on Wheels type program moving forward. So we're looking at that and then trying to see what resources we might need that we could propose to council.
Okay, great.
Thanks for coming out and answering questions. Council members, Councilmember Dinas, did you want to share
Yes,
something?
I do, thank you. On the presentation, you had that both orange and yellow tiers will have a 9 capacity for in-person appointments in the city hall. Does it first come, first serve, or the appointment, do you just, the first ones that call up and get the appointment going to be the ones who are able to get it, or is there some way to prioritize those in-person appointments?
Yeah, so we have two options that are going to be available, and we're fleshing that out. One of them is going to be using our existing technology to book people who are interested in attending the meetings. They can go online and they can do that. But not everybody has access to technology, so we're also reserving some of the spots that are going to be for those who just want to walk up on a first-come, first-served basis.
Okay, because on the second table you had, it was right before the one that, before attachment A, it's talking about in the front counter permits, there's a capacity of 6 in the lobby, and here you have 9 capacity.
Yeah, so the capacity for the council chambers is going to be different for the capacity for the
Okay,
lobby.
well, I'm looking at where it says hours of operation Civic Hall. It says for the hours of operations Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in person with appointment of 9 capacities. I'm not talking about the chambers.
Okay, sure.
I'm talking about you can allow 9 people into City Hall at a time. That's why I understand it.
Yes, there's
But-
not.
But only 6 can be at the front count at the permit counter.
So to add clarification, I know that we had it set up previously when we opened up that we have the availability in the lobby to stand at the counter, but then also at the bench. So, and we did also define that it was 6 groups of people, because if a family's together, they can stand close together within proximity, to be helped by counter staff, but then also to have a waiting, we have the bench out here, so there was also some markers. So I think that that is what we're referring to.
Okay, you said additional, so under here on the City Hall for the front counter permits, it says the appointments are every 30 minutes. So are you limiting the appointments to 30 minutes only when you're at the counter, and is that realistic and
That is
sufficient time for?
Yes, that's a realistic approximate time. If there is need to go further than that, we have, and we employed this when we were open previously, is we can take them aside into a conference room and assist them if it was going to be more of a lengthy appointment.
I hate to get, 3/4 of the way through your business here and say, 30 minutes, come back. We don't want to see that. But then speaking about the city council meetings and having 9 residents here, are they gonna be, you said it was a first come, first serve that want to come. What about the 10th person that actually wants to speak? It gives a speaker slip and wants to speak. Will they be able to then come in even though there's 9 people that have their say and leave?
So we were discussing this, to have a staging area set up for, in the conference rooms we have available and also out in the lobby, and that we could rotate if needed. We're looking to go forward with an appointment system so that we can actually schedule it in advance. But we are going to be working out those details over the next week.
Okay, because for those who like to address the council in person, having to sometimes you want to do that, but by that time, the appointments are full, or, they don't have time to make the appointment or whatever. I prefer, being able to get in here and talk with us without, even though they don't have an appointment. I think there should be some priority. If they're going to speak to us and they make the effort to come down and speak to us, they should have the ability to do that.
And that is exactly what we were discussing as far as allowing a certain amount of people in and then rotating. So if we had certain speakers, set up a schedule with them to rotate through through the items. And I think city manager might have been.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments?
That's it, thank you.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I just had one. Mr. Gardinas, thank you for the report. Thank you, staff. It looks like you've all been working hard on trying to get our city hall open for our residents and businesses. On the neighboring cities page, I was wondering when this was put together. Was it after we've gotten the information from the governor on the orange, or is this before?
So it's been a continuous process. So we've been checking in with the cities as well, but this is the information as of this morning.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And Councilman Leesmeyer?
Just generally my last question. I mean, is this being presented to us as here's what we're doing, or are you asking us for an opinion? For our monument.
Okay.
So I can answer that. I think it's you as a council, when we presented an update, you wanted to see a presentation on what it would take to open up City Hall. So we're bringing that at your request, but at the same time, we're trying to balance the fact that in about another month and a half, all this will be over, because we're trying to put together a plan that is careful and cautious about how we take the risks. But we understand that in June 15th, we might not need to worry about it. Again, it's a plan that is a cautious plan, and as the emergency director, you've given me the ability to make this decision to be able to make sure that we safeguard not only the public but the employees and the services.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Armand, did you have any other things you want to share?
Right, I think I just touched on the fact that we're trying to come up with a way to deal with opening up our city council meetings to the public, but we realize that it may just be 2 meetings or 3 meetings, 2 more meetings that we don't want to really have to spend a lot of money on technology when we know we're not going to need it may not need it after June 15th. So we have looked at what our track record of attendance at city council meeting, and we really don't have that many people attending unless we have a very controversial issue, which we may not. So I think it's just ask for your patience that in the next 2 to 3 to 4 meetings, we might be able to be completely open.
Sounds like you have a good transition plan, and so thank you. You guys, staff, you did the right thing by putting together a nice color-coded plan, and that's what we asked for, so thank you for doing that. And yeah, it's a transition, but I really liked what Mayor Pro Tem Sobek said, and that's that we're here to serve the public, and that's what it's all about, and so you're doing your best to transition to that. And I'm looking forward to June. Let's hope that things, the trajectory stays the same, and the number of hospitalizations and all of that continue to drop. So, All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next agenda item if we can. This is 5.2, Distracted Driving Awareness Month Proclamation. We do actually have a proclamation here, and so at the end of the presentation, council members, we may want to come up to the front and have Chief and his team join us, and we'll do a photo op that Dominique can snap a picture. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to City Manager if you wanted to introduce the team.
Mr. Mayor and council member, this is going to be a tag team presentation by Sergeant Block and our PIO, Dominique.
Okay.
Dominique.
Thank you very much, Mayor, City Council. I'm Dominique Samario, the Public Information Officer for the City of Menifee, and I'm really honored to be able to present tonight on Distracted Driving Awareness Month, both for City Council, but also for our community. And before I begin the presentation, I do want to thank our Menifee Police Department for their partnership in this item, and particularly our very own Traffic Sergeant, Sergeant Block. So thank you very much for being here. So to begin, we're going to just give a little background on Distracted Driving Awareness Month, provide some key facts and statistics about distracted driving, and then Sergeant Block is going to dive into some Menifee-specific driving facts and actions that they are taking, and then we'll be talking about the Distracted Driving Awareness Month outreach that we plan on doing throughout the month of April and our proclamation that you just mentioned. So throughout the pandemic, many people have likely noticed that traffic has decreased, which is wonderful. However, the roads are more dangerous, and more than 700 people are injured in distracted driving crashes every single day. That's nationwide, not in the city of Menifee, but it speaks to the challenges that we are facing. So in 2010, to combat these challenges with distracted driving and to really highlight the dangers of distracted driving, Congress declared April as Distracted Driving Awareness Month. This type of work is supported by our National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the National Safety Council. What is distracted driving? So I think we often assume it has to do with maybe a mobile device, and as Sergeant Block will speak to today, that is very commonly the case. But it's important to know that distracted driving is any activity that diverts attention from operating a vehicle, which includes using a cell phone, but also eating and drinking, talking to other passengers in your car, or even adjusting climate controls or other kind of navigational devices. Anything that's diverting your attention counts as distracted driving. So the city of Menifee has declared April as Distracted Driving Awareness Month, and this is really to be able to just bring attention to that and the dangers that that are faced by people driving distracted, and also the real repercussions that happen on the road. So just to bring some national facts and figures, every single day during daylight hours, there are more than 660,000 drivers using a handheld device while driving. There were over 3,142 lives lost due to distracted driving in 2019 alone. And between the years of 2012 and 2019, 26,000 people died in distracted driving collisions. So now to dive into some Menifee-specific facts, I'd love to turn it over to our Traffic Sergeant, Sergeant Block.
Thank you, Dominique, and thank you, Mayor and City Council members. As you know, we took over July 1st, 2020, and since then, we've seen approximately 60 traffic collisions. Okay. As you know, we started in, is that better? Okay. As you know, we started July 1st, 2020, and since then, we've seen approximately 60 of our traffic collisions have involved distracted driving. The actual number is significantly higher than 60 traffic collisions. However, as you guys know, when people are stopped during a traffic collision, they are not very forthcoming with facts of how the collision occurred. So we do believe that that number is significantly higher. 22 of these collisions have resulted in some sort of injury ranging from a complaint of pain to a major injury. And one of these collisions resulted in a fatality. Since July 1st, approximately 259 cell phone citations have been issued, and I can personally attest to that number actually growing, as today alone, within about an hour and 15 minutes, I wrote 5 cell phone violations at Newport and Hahn. What we're doing to combat distracted driving is we're partnering with the Office of Traffic Safety for additional enforcement. We'll have multiple days where officers are out on grant-funded overtime to enforce distracted driving laws. The police department will also be conducting maximum enforcement operations, which will include traffic officers, patrol officers, and officers from special assignments to boost the awareness with our driving community. We will also be creating social media posts that will highlight our activities and our results. With that, I'd like to turn it back over to Dominique.
Thank you, Sergeant Block.
Yes, thank you, Sergeant Block. You know, since the fall of 2020, we've been partnering with our Menifee Police Department to highlight safe driving and the various dangers that are on the road. This was something that's very important to Menifee PD. However, in April, the target and the focus of this outreach is really going to be a campaign solely dedicated to distracted driving. So we're going to share posts and videos related to Menifee locally, but also share statistics and facts and national campaign information as well, such as people being able to sign the Just Drive pledge, which is taking place nationwide. So to close, I just want to thank City Council for supporting this effort with a Menifee proclamation declaring April as National Distracted Driving Awareness Month here in Menifee. This partnership will really be able to highlight the need for safe driving and focused driving right here in our community. We hope that this raises awareness about the dangers and that, you know, even minor actions when you're behind the wheel can have major consequences. So we thank you for this support and the opportunity to share this information and look forward to continuing to do so throughout the month. That concludes this part of the presentation, but we look forward to presenting the proclamation and answering any questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Mario, and thank you, Sergeant Block. I think it's wonderful that we're doing this, and I'm proud to say we're doing everything we can to keep our streets safe. So if we can, council members, can we come up to the front? We'll put on our masks and take a quick photo op. Before we do so, Mayor Pro Tem had something to share.
Yeah, I didn't know if any other council members want to say something, but I'm glad that we're doing this. And how does the city council sign that pledge?
Oh, I can share something with you all directly. I'll share an email with you, and once you do so, maybe I can share that on our social media to really highlight that you guys are taking that pledge. We appreciate it.
Great. You know, part of the city council's goal, one of our main goals is that Menifee become a safer city all the way around. And so this is adding to that, and it's a great thing that we're doing. I did have one maybe comment. You mentioned that you're going to be posting on social media activities and results of what's going on. I think that sometimes when we need to make a change, we need a call to action. And so that was the one thing I was looking for, is what is our call to action to our residents? So that would be something that I would maybe like us to think about, is challenging, you know, our residents and giving that call to action. What are they going to do? What is an individual going to do better in their driving, to be less distracted? So that was a thought that I had.
Okay. And Councilman Leesmeyer.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Dominique, and thank you especially Sergeant Block for being here. I think it should be noted to the rest of the council that, you know, as the traffic sergeant, you're the one that gets to show up. Or has to write the report, or has to do the dirty work when it comes down to it, in an unfortunate car accident, especially in the case of somebody losing their life. And I just wanted to acknowledge that and give you my shoulder, if you will, in the event that, you know, if there's ever a time that you want to talk, we're all here for you. We're all part of a family. And, you know, I know it's a lot of stress for you especially, so I really appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you very much.
So let's quickly, council members, for the social media post, do a photo op. Bring our masks. Dominique, will you state this? However you want it.
I think that being the traffic sergeant, if we can present it to Sergeant Block, that would be great. And you're gonna be chief, actually, do you guys anybody remember chief?
Not really.
If we could go right there, yes, that would be great. I can tell you're smiling. Do one more this way. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Great. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Guys, thank you very much.
Thanks for saying that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, very good. We are ready to move to our next agenda item, and that is 5.3, our police department's canine introductions and a demonstration. Kind of excited to see what this is all about. I know we have a great canine team, and so tonight we're going to find out a little bit more about it. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Sergeant Gutierrez, or Captain Gutierrez, Lieutenant Abigail DeValle.
Good afternoon, good evening. I am Lieutenant Abigail Valle. I oversee our department's canine unit, and we thought that after a couple of months of our canines being patrol ready, that it would be quite a treat for you guys to get to see a little bit of what our dogs do and what they've been training for. I have our canines here. Oh, I'm sorry. They didn't teach me that in class. I know, I project. So again, I oversee the canine unit for the Menifee Police Department, our police department, and I'm really excited for you guys to get to meet our dogs, Dino, who's a German Shepherd, and Emmy, who's a Belgian Malinois, and they are here today. Quincy Mercado, she's our handler for canine Emmy, and Officer Kevin Brooks, and he is our handler for Dino. I'm gonna go ahead and get them. So this is Dino and Officer Kevin Brooks, and this is Quincy, Officer Mercado, with Emmy. And so Emmy is 2 years old, and Dino is 1.5. So again, both dogs, we purchased our dogs from Adler Horse International, and Adler Horse is the premier dog training facility where most of Southern California agencies obtain their dogs.
Sorry, this is her favorite thing in the entire world. This is your favorite toy?
So I'll have Officer Mercado talk a little bit about her training. And Emmy, are you able, or do you want me to hold it?
Yeah, no, I got it. Thank you, Elsie. I know you want to play. Thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to be here, as are the dogs, obviously. We actually just came from training today, so Emmy is very much ready for the demonstration that we'll be doing shortly. So Emmy, right now, she's single-purpose apprehension, but soon, coming September, she'll also be narcotics trained, so she'll be a dual purpose. Emmy in the city of Menifee, especially with narcotics, is going to be extremely busy. So it's going to be nice that not only will she supplement patrol in their functions, she'll also be able to supplement our detective bureau or any investigations that we have related to narcotics. Emmy is an awesome Belgian Malinois. As you can see, she's little. She's about 45 pounds, give or take, but she's mighty. So she knows that we are here, we have a job, and when that, this is
This is her harness. She knows when the harness goes on that we're going to work. And then I'm going to pass it off to Kev. Do you have anything you want to say about Sir Dino?
Good evening, and thank you for having us. We greatly appreciate you purchasing the dogs, for having us have the dogs here in the program here. Like my partner said, this is Canine Dino. He's about 113 pounds. So he will be dual purpose. Right now, actually multi-purpose, because he does do some tracking also, so we can actually track a suspect that leaves a vehicle or something of that nature. He's going to be gun trained. Again, another good working environment here for guns and stuff like that.
Can you explain what gun training means?
Oh, yes, ma'am. So gun train means he will be able to sniff out guns that are hidden, that a suspect might hide in a car or in their home or something like that. Now, also, which my partner, our dogs are also evidence trained. So what that means is our dogs, how that helps you as a city, it saves you money, is if, say, a suspect were to run through a school field, a football field or something like that, throw a weapon or something out there, a gun or something, or anything that we wouldn't want the kids to find, where it would take officers, officers online and probably a couple of hours with flashlights, because normally stuff happens at night. We can do a football field in probably 15, 20 minutes and be relatively sure that that weapon or whatever, if we don't find it, is not there. So they're trained to do that for you. Again, how the program helps you as citizens and as the city council, it saves money for you, both in apprehensions and keeping officers safe. We believe paws before boots. We love our dogs. This is my 4th dog, and we love them. So we want to make sure our officers are safe. So how that helps for you is you don't have to pay, if an officer gets hurt, you're still paying a salary, you're still paying for medical and stuff like that. We keep that from happening with the dogs. Also, people see the dogs, they don't want to fight 9 times out of 10. So that keeps people from having to fight us, keeps us from having to pull out guns and things like that, which can cost money for the cities. So that's how it helps your program. That's how your program is helping you save your city money and our city money. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put Dino up real quick, and then we're gonna do a demo with Emmy, and then I'll bring Dino back in, and we can take some pictures or whatever if you'd like to do that. Okay.
Well, also answer any questions that you have at the end. Sometimes it helps jog your memory when you see the actual demo itself. We're happy to answer any questions after.
Okay.
So again, we're going to end up doing a little bit of a presentation, what we call a demonstration. We typically do this type of training scenario during a typical training day. Again, if Handler Mercado wants to talk a little bit about what this scenario is going to entail and what we need from the crowd.
Thank you, LT. So like I kind of mentioned earlier, we're going to be doing a bite demonstration. So Emmy here is going to be helping me apprehend a very dangerous subject, which is going to be our Captain Carr. Today, he decided to be a bad guy. I'm actually going to pass it off to Kev because now the suit's in here, so she's going to be excited. Thanks, Kev.
Okay, so. So, as you can see, the dog's locked on to the suspect. The dogs are trained to apprehend. They are not attack dogs. They are apprehension. The difference is these dogs are trained to bite and hold. As you can see, she's locked on. She's drooling. It's a game to her. It's all games to her.
All right, so when we have a subject that we know we're going to put, it is a use of force, so we are using force to apprehend our suspect. I do give them a chance to give up. So I'm going to give, not today, Carr, I get it. So I'm going to give him a couple of commands, and unfortunately he's not going to be listening, and so we're going to see what Emmy's made of. I can't hear you. All right, hey dude in the blue jacket, Menifee Police Department Canine team, give up now. If you do not give up and put your hands high up in the air, I'm going to send a dog, and the dog is going to bite you. They're getting lower. Okay. Last and final warning, hey you in the bite suit, come out now. Nope.
Now, as you can see, she's biting and holding. She's not going to move. I can walk up, or officers can walk up. We can help take the suspect into custody. The dog is going to stay on the bite at all times. Now, we're not just going to use our dogs on just anybody. This is a person that has shown aggression towards the officers. Decided he or she was not going to listen to us. So we're not just going to arbitrarily just let them go. We're going to give them a chance to give up. We definitely are. Now, how this helps the city, if you look, say if we didn't have the dogs and we had to approach this person, we could get injured, or if we look at it, we might have had to use something more deadly force. This is less lethal. Couple of puncture wounds, some tape, and he's going to jail. And that's it. And as you can see, the dog comes right off. We can take the person into custody, and it's done. And again, exactly, he should have known better. Definitely should have known better. Now, both our dogs are trained to do the same thing. So, again, Emmy and Officer Quincy. So she's going to come back in real quick, and then if we have any questions for us, we can take any questions. I can take some now if you have any. I'm not sure if the lieutenant said our dogs are from Germany. Different languages. Mine, we say speak, but they respond to German. Quincy's is Czech, so that's what her commands are. Again, we appreciate you having us. We appreciate you having the program. Again, a lot of people don't realize that how much money they actually save in the long run. So, and I guess pictures now? Okay, I'll go get them.
Well, as Handler Brooks goes and gets Dino, if you have any questions that we might be able to answer for you guys.
Floor is open.
So, just real quick, I like to, what are some of the real life scenarios you've played out since they've arrived here at Menifee?
That's a great question, sir. I've actually been pretty lucky. I've deployed Emmy several times in the city already. We've had burglary investigations or a burglary in progress inside of homes. We have a lot of vacant homes right now, both new and old. And we've had a couple of suspects who unfortunately don't understand whose property, that they don't understand whose property belongs to who. So we've had Emmy arrive on scene. We get the story of, hey, who should be in there? Nobody is. There's forced entry. And so Emmy has cleared numerous houses, all related to burglaries. We see a lot of burglaries in our city, and unfortunately, it's all over Menifee. Emmy has not had an apprehension yet, but she's done really, really incredible on her searches, very thorough. One of them, we went into an attic. That was really fun. And, and we haven't had any vehicle deployments yet, but as you probably see in the news and with other agencies, that's pretty common. We have a lot of felony high-risk stops, which is also very useful for our canines. And as we get our officers and patrol a little more acclimated to when we can deploy and when to ask for us, we'll also have more and more frequent deployments and more efficient. But for me, on my end, I've had it mostly with burglaries inside of homes. How about you, Kev?
Basically the same thing. We've done a couple of deployments in houses. Just the other day, we had a assault with a deadly weapon. Suspect threw a knife into an open field, and Dino located it, which would have taken officers quite a few hours to search for a knife in an open field. It was about a football large field, so but he located it. So he's done good. Again, we haven't had any apprehensions as of yet, which is a good thing. I have had him, when I was contacting a possible suspect, barking, and the person actually said, oh, you got a dog, okay, what do you want me to do? So, I mean, they don't want to deal with the dogs.
And just so council knows as well, we count those as apprehensions as well. So an apprehension isn't necessarily what you guys just saw now. Also, for statistical purposes, an apprehension is something as simple as us bringing out the dog and making announcements. Suspect, give yourself up. We have the canine. Just making that announcement, and a suspect giving up, we call that an apprehension as well. And that happens significantly as well.
And the lieutenant just reminded me, and my partner did too, we also had a 3-person apprehension. We had a armed robbery over at one of the lake communities. We made some announcements through the car speaker, and all 3 of the suspects came out, and we apprehended. One of them had a gun, one had a knife. So again, no civilians were injured, no officers were injured. So it works. They're definitely a good tool.
Well, on behalf of the residents, thank you so much for what you do.
Yeah, I do have a question. So how does your, so we have 2 canine dogs. We have 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week.
Yes.
How, what do you do during the day when you're not called out to go do canine service?
Well, we split the week. So my partner, she works the front half of the week, and we meet on Wednesdays. Wednesday is our training day. We're always available to be called out. My partner lives within the city limits. I only live a throne's throw out of the city limits. I live in Hemet, but we can always be called out if necessary. So that's how we work it. Our hours vary depending on training or depending on what we may have. The detective bureau may want to do a warrant service or something like that, so they may call us in to assist with a warrant service. So it just depends. Canines, like I said, this is my 14th year doing this with dogs or working with dogs. My schedule has been all over the place all my whole 14 years, and I'm used to it. My family's used to it, so it's just part of what comes with it. That's part of being the dog handler. They'll go home with us. If you didn't know that, they do go home with us. They're with us and our families. They're not pets, but they are at home with us 24. So we're with them 24/7. We're taking care of them 24/7. Training. We do some type of training every day as individual handlers. We train as a team on Wednesdays. They integrated within our families I know, quiet, still. He senses that Emmy was biting in here, so he senses the bite suit. So he's like, why didn't I get my turn? That's basically what he's saying. But that's how it works, ma'am. They're with us 24/7.
And they're on 7 days a week.
Okay.
You're right.
Well, thank you for bringing your expertise to the city of Menifee and being ready to go dog handlers in our police department. So.
That's right. I have one more question from Councilman Leesmeyer.
Yes.
So we know that they go home with you all the time, and but the question
Quiet.
for Officer Mercado, Emmy seems a little psychotic.
Yeah.
So give me a snapshot of a day in the life with Emmy, off duty.
I'll tell you what I did yesterday, as a matter of fact. So it's kind of funny. They talk about how you really do match the personality of yourself with your dog. So we're on the same wavelength. Emmy, in a typical day, so she'll wake up pretty early, and we're basically training obedience from the start of the day. You know, I'm still able to run my normal errands. I can still do what I need to do and take care of the household, but I'm always integrating training with Emmy. And what's great about being able to train with her at home and why coming home is important for the canines is that's actually the time that they have the best training because they're the most comfortable. They're in that environment where they know this is home where I can relax, and they can kind of turn that switch off of patrol. So my best training with Emmy in terms of obedience is at home. So you'll hear me, my neighbors unfortunately hear me speaking in Czech a lot. They probably think I'm from somewhere else. I'm out there with Emmy doing basic obedient commands. We train a lot with food, and so every day when I'm feeding Emmy, she actually doesn't just get the bowl and she's fed. I'm training with her so she knows that, hey, if I want to eat, I have to do what my handler wants me to do. Emmy won't eat in any other way, as a matter of fact. So if I put the bowl in front of her now, she won't eat until I give her some basic obedience. And another thing that we can do is, depending on the day, depending on Emmy, when she's a little more rambunctious than other days, I'll also take her to back to the station, and we'll run some basic training over there. So thankfully, I'm in this city, no children, so she has my full attention. And she's been getting some awesome training, and we've had a car over there for a little while, so we get to do some car deployments. What I can say about canines is you can't train enough. Weekly even feels like you're like, oh, we just got our stride, and we want to do so many other things. And so we really have to take it upon ourselves to make sure that they're getting what they need. Every dog is different. What Kev does at home with Dino is going to be different than what I do. And as you can see, I mean, they know that they're a part of the team. So even if I were to hand the leash over to Kev right now, have Kev do some basic commands, Kevin could also work with Emmy. So just getting her integrated and knowing when's patrol and when's home life. You want to talk about?
So, do I need the mic? 'Cause-
You're fine.
okay, so.
Do we have any other questions? Or?
Well, how is it with Dino? I mean, he seems more like a teddy bear, right?
He was a staff sergeant, so you don't need the mic.
Is a teddy bear. Honestly, he's a big baby. He thinks he's a lap dog. My wife is 105 pounds wet and tries to get my wife to lap all the time. We do basic training, like my partner was saying. That's why he's barking right now. Like, seats. So we use food for treats. So, good boy. Here. Down. Seats. Here. Seats. Right wheel. Good boy. Left wheel.
Oh, yay.
Good boy. Cover. Seats. Cover walk. Good boy. And that's what we work on, and again, it's just stuff to keep their minds available to what we're doing. So that's what I do with Dino. I just try to keep his mind occupied.
Can you tell us how old the dogs are?
Oh, Dino will actually be 2 years old on the 17th of this month.
Okay.
And Emmy is 2.5. Her birthday's in October.
Okay.
Yes,
Excellent.
She's older than him. She's the senior.
Well, you can tell they love you a lot.
Yeah.
We're very blessed. We have great partners. We really do. They make us look good, honestly.
Okay.
She's like, hi. She's like,
They'd love to be here all day, but I know that we have a council meeting to go through. So thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thank you.
Would you guys like to take pictures?
Yeah.
Sure,
they
you
have-
can.
Make a
We're
point.
brave.
You want me to take one of your cameras, your phone?
You set up where you want, we'll come to you. Well, he loves to be pet, but he's hairy. If you want to pet him, you can pet him now, but it's up to you. He'll lean into you and he loves the attention.
I'm going to be on the left side and Kevin will be on the other. Yeah, I'm just filling everybody in.
Like I said, he loves the attention. Oh, yeah. Come on.
Let's leave him on the left.
What's that? You want
Yeah, I'm going to go over here.
Get the middle over here.
in the middle? Okay.
We're still working on socializing and
Seats.
she'll be there.
Hey, seats.
Oh, wow. Okay, you know where you are.
If it's okay, since Amy is best to be on the end, is it okay if he goes on the end and that way?
Sure, okay.
So it's a nice little sandwich?
Yeah, you can that way go.
Hey, something up there. Keep it.
Council control.
Seats.
Now you guys, you don't have to worry about it, right?
I don't know about you guys.
I know, they're looking great.
Get the smile through the mask. You can see it in the eyes. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you so much. Appreciate you all.
All right, everybody all back where we need to be. Let's go ahead and get back to our agenda. This is now item 6, agenda approval or modifications. Madam Clerk, do we have any modifications to our agenda this evening?
No, there are no modifications.
All right, council members, all in favor of approving our agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's approved unanimously. Let's move to item 7. This is public comments on non-agendized items. This is the time for members of the public to address the council about items that are not listed on the agenda. The Brown Act limits the council's ability to respond to comments on non-agendized matters at the time such comments are made. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes on any single item. Please submit requests to comment to publiccomments@cityofmenifee.us. So if anyone's watching this meeting, you'd like to provide public comments, you got to register to speak. Just email publiccomments@cityofmenifee.us and make sure that you identify which item you'd like to speak on, and you'll get instructions on how to participate. So with that, Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers emailed comments on non-agendized items?
We did have somebody request to speak, but doesn't look like they're on Zoom. Let me see if we give them a minute.
Hi, my name is Taylor. I submitted a request
There
to
he
talk
is.
today.
Okay, we
Taylor
hear you,
Sharkey.
so go ahead. We'll start your time. You have 3 minutes, sir.
All right. I don't think I'll use up that much time. But, City of Menifee, thanks for all of your hard work and dedication to growing this community. For a little while now, there's been an issue with the Krikorian movie theater. The building is crumbling in the middle of our city. With the California moving into the orange tier, movie theaters are now able to host citizens at a 50% capacity. And our community is very excited to welcome them in. I was wondering what you are doing to address this issue and if there's any updates on when we could expect them to open.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sharkey. Our city manager can give you a real quick update on the item.
Actually, Mayor, I'll be happy to talk to him.
Okay.
If you want to leave your phone number, contact information, I'll give you a call tomorrow to sort of walk you through what are some of the things that we're doing to get the theater moving.
Yeah.
The individual's name is Taylor Sharkey.
Taylor Sharkey is the speaker.
Any relation to the contractor Sharkey? Just curious.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So our city manager will get a hold of you, Mr. Sharkey, with some information on that, and I'll just throw in there that we're all in agreement. We want to see that theater get going as well. So, all right, Madam Clerk, any other speakers?
There are no other requests to speak.
All right, very good. We'll move now to item 8. This is council member updates and comments, and so I will start with Councilman Leesmeyer. Do you have a report, sir?
I do not.
Okay, Councilman Dynas, do you have a report?
Yes, just real quickly, on the 26th, I had the privilege of attending the Lazy Creek Rec Center groundbreaking with most of the other council. That was kind of exciting to see that getting off the ground, as it were, and started the renovation on that. And then the day before that, on a Thursday, the 25th, I attended the RTA board meeting. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, very good. And Mayor Pro Tem Sobek?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to report out that Menifee Better Together will be coming up on April 24th. It will be smaller this year. The senior habitat revitalization part with Habitat, any volunteers can sign up on the Habitat website. And then the Quail Valley waste drop-off and the right-of-way cleanups, you can volunteers can sign up for that day on the city website. I attended the 2021 State of the Region, and there was quite a bit of information, but in lieu of time, I just want to share a couple things with the council colleagues that I took away. And number one, innovation. The cities who had this did better during the pandemic, and we did see that in our city. And I want to thank our city manager for his leadership and our city staff for the innovation that they did. In the outlook, it says that remote working won't be what they thought. It is here to stay, but more of a combination remote and at work. And in the end, they said that the economic forecast is positive and that we will see recovery of the fourth quarter of in the summer of 2022, we will see the recovery of what we saw in the fourth quarter of 2019. So there was just some really good information. If you want to know more, you can ask me. But it was a good conference that I attended just to help us as a city council be able to make good decisions. Again, I attended the Lazy Creek grand opening, groundbreaking, and I just want to say thank you to our community service staff and Michael, who runs that center. It's a much needed facility, and I'm excited for that as it moves forward. I did attend, I was asked to participate in a WRCOG Women's History Month panel discussion, and I participated in that with two other council people from around the county. I did attend yesterday the Western Riverside Conservation Authority. We're still on virtual. There's not a whole lot to report out there. We will be getting tonight information on the Nexus study. Let's see here. I did attend the Menifee Interfaith meeting, and Pastor Crawford, who's the chair, wanted me to extend an invitation to all the council members who can attend. They will be hosting the National Day of Prayer service, which will be outside at Central Park on Thursday, May 6th. We don't pick the date. That's a national date. It will be at 11 o'clock to noon. And the keynote speaker will be Chief Pat Walsh. I attended the Lakes HOA meeting with Chief Walsh and Sergeant Paul Raul Perez, and it was a lot of residents in that neighborhood had questions about safety, golf carts, and what our police are doing to address issues on that. At the Interfaith meeting, we did hear the guest speaker was her name. Let's see here. Where's it at? I don't have her name. Jessica Munez, and she was representing Voices for Children of Riverside County. And just to let our residents know that there's over 4,000 foster children in our county, and that they need advocates to work, and so that is available, and there is training for that, and they're always in need. And in my last comment, I do want to give a sincere condolences to anyone who's lost loved ones during this coronavirus pandemic. I did see that our numbers are up to 161 residents that we have lost, and we continue to add white doves to the trees at the Coronavirus Memorial and Peace Garden for those residents. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. You've been busy. I've been busy too, so I'll give my report as quickly as I can here. This is since last March 17th. So I've been attending the ongoing EOC meetings and also every Thursday Rotary Club meetings. Provided a tour of the city to our new Chamber of Commerce CEO, Manisha Jones. And so it was good to show her around town and the History Museum, and she's really kind of getting up to speed on things. On March 20th, there was that citywide spring cleanup, and I know all the council members attended that as well, and I did too. On March 22nd, I was at the WRCPP, that's Western Programs and committee that's for RCTC, so we went over preparing for that agenda. On March 23rd, I was at a virtual meeting. It was the Menifee Union School District Counseling Advisory Council, and that's we meet 4 times this year, and this was the first meeting. On March 23rd, MSJC had a groundbreaking for the stadium. I was invited, but not as a council member, but as a former trustee who voted on the project a couple of years back. They had a very limited number of people that attended that. But it was nice to see that get going, and I know they're going to be doing a lot of great work, and that's going to be just something that was wonderful for our city in the coming years. On March 24th, I was invited to PALS, P-A-L-S, is Pathways for Adult Life Skills. It's the Paris Union High School District's adult special needs program, and so I got to join them virtually and talk to them about some of the things that are happening here in the city, and it's always nice to be with that group. That same day, there was a virtual class visit that I did with Mr. Gruber. He's a teacher at Herc Boris Elementary School, and so he and I met with the kids, and they asked a lot of questions about what's city government like and what's coming at the future parks, and it was great to tell them about the pump track and things like that. So on March 26th was the Lazy Creek groundbreaking, and also Dean Dinas and I went to the ribbon cutting at Jasper over at Meritage Homes there in Audie Murphy Ranch. Right afterwards for their ribbon cutting.
I heard they gave a check.
And they did to the homeless shelter. So
Domestic violence.
right,
Yeah.
alternatives for domestic violence, and it was, I don't remember how much it was, 15,000. Yeah, it was pretty.
So that's
pretty
going to be for
generous.
their playground.
Yeah, so that was great. Let's see. On Sunday, March 28th, I went to Centennial Park. They had an Easter egg hunt event over there, and it was nice to see all the kids out at the park. And on March 29th, there was a funeral procession for Ed Houston. I think some of you remember he was the gentleman we named one of the ball fields at Wheatfield Park in his honor. He was for 30 years he served as a volunteer for the softball league, so that was great. Unfortunately, we lost Ed a couple months ago. On March 30th, I attended the Regional Homeless Collaboration Forum. That's something that's put on, hosted by the city of Riverside. Their city manager, Al Zelinka, was kind of the host. There was kind of an update on some of the things that have been accomplished by the subregions. The subregions are made up of 5 or 6 cities each. So fortunately, we had Sergeant Perez from City of Menifee's police department on that call, and so he gave some updates about the things that we are doing as a city in our in the central sub region. But they also had a couple other folks that were guests. Heidi Marshall, she's with the Workforce Development, and Dr. Matt Chang. He's with behavioral health, and that's who we're going to be working with our team here. So that's kind of good to hear from them. So that's going to reconvene in 6 months, and so hopefully then we can have some nice new updates. On April 3rd, I went to Cay Senacero Center for the Spring Fest drive-through, and it was kind of nice to see all the families coming through and getting some nice stuff for Easter for the kids. Looking forward to this Saturday, the city manager and myself and the councilman who represents District 1, which is Bob Carwin, are going to be at an event this Saturday at Sun City Civic Association. It's kind of a meet the leaders forum kind of a thing, and I think we're going to be in the hot seat. So anyway, I'm looking forward to that. I think it'd be good to share some information about what's happening in that community. That wraps up my report. If anybody else has anything to add, feel free. All right, hearing none, we're going to go ahead and get back to our agenda, and that is item 9 now for approval of minutes. There's actually 2 of them, so hopefully we can take them together. There's the March 15th special meeting that was our strategic visioning plan, and also the March 17th regular meeting. So do we have any revisions, council members, to either of those minutes? I think, Madam Clerk, we can approve those together, right? Okay, so all in favor of approving them both, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, those are approved unanimously. We'll move to item 10 now. This is the consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar are to be approved in one motion unless a council member requests a separate action on a specific item on the consent calendar. If an item is removed from the consent calendar, it'll be discussed individually and acted upon separately. Council members, actually, let me say this. Madam Clerk, any public comments on the consent calendar items emailed to you?
No, there are no requests to speak.
All right, thank you. So council members, any items that we'd like to pull tonight from consent?
10-6.
All right, 10-6. Any others? I'm going to ask to pull 10-5. So we'll have those 2. Any others pulled?
Motion to approve the balance.
All right. And I'll second that. So, Madam Clerk, can we do a roll call vote, please? Uh-oh. My thing timed out. Dang it.
Just touch.
What do I got to do here?
Just touch it. The mayor's screen is timed out.
Ron, do you think we can get somebody to
sleep.
wake up my screen? There we go. Thank you.
And Sarah, it just says waiting.
Okay.
Got
Is
it.
that okay?
All right. All right, and that passes unanimously. All right, so we'll go to the first item that was pulled, which was 10.5, and that is the community project funding requests. Mr. City Manager, would you mind sharing a little bit about this?
Sure, Mayor and council members. I think we have a PowerPoint presentation. This is a request by Congressman Calvert. He requested us to provide a list of possible projects that he could include in the earmark for funding. So I'd like to ask Imelda Huerta, our senior management analyst, to help us overview this request.
Yes, thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. As Armando mentioned, I am Imelda Huerta, Senior Management Analyst, City Manager's Office, and I'll be giving a brief presentation on the congressional earmarks, also known as community project funding. So just a brief background. I believe this is the last time earmarks were implemented were over a decade ago. So the United States House of Representatives is considering the inclusion of community project funding request as delineated by the House Appropriations Committee request in their annual appropriation bills. Within the bills, only state and local government entities and nonprofit organizations are being requested to submit up to 3 federal nexus projects, as each member of Congress can submit up to 10 total community project funding requests. The community project funding for the United States cannot exceed 1% that goes through the Appropriations Committee. And I do want to note that the portal to submit these requests to Congressman Calvert's office opened last Monday, and the deadline to submit is this Friday, April 9th. So community engagement and support is crucial in determining which projects are worthy of federal funding. Only projects with demonstrated community support will be considered. This recommendation builds on past committee reforms, and members will be required to present to the committee evidence of community support that were compelling factors in their decision to submit requests. And after speaking to Congressman Calvert's office, they also emphasize that community support are key factors, and the Appropriations Committee will value these in vetting all community project funding requests. So some examples of community support include letters of support, press articles highlighting the need, support from newspaper editorial boards, projects listed on the state intended plans, community development plans, or other publicly available planning documents, and also resolutions passed by council, city council, or boards. So this slide just highlights some of the eligible accounts or categories for these projects. You have, for example, agricultural and rural development projects, commerce, justice, and science projects, defense, energy and water, interior, homeland security, labor, human health services and education, VA, and also transportation and housing and urban development, which also includes local transportation priorities. So after speaking with staff, and we were discussing the CIP projects that were presented at our annual Congressman Calvert meeting back in February, we wanted to focus on transportation and housing and urban development, which includes, as mentioned previously, the local transportation priorities. So these projects have to be capital projects or project-specific planning designed for a capital project, supported by the state or local government that would administer the project. Inclusion on a statewide transportation improvement plan or transportation improvement plan would satisfy this requirement, and administered by public entities. So one of the projects, I think one of our priority projects we decided as one of our top ones, since we can only submit 3. One of them was the Bradley Road Bridge over Salt Creek CIP project. This is a regional flood control facility with a FEMA nexus that is owned, maintained, and operated by the County of Riverside Flood Control and Water Conservation District. Salt Creek runs east to west across the entire width of City of Menifee and discharges into Canyon Lake. The Bradley Road Bridge over Salt Creek project will construct a raised bridge across Salt Creek, replacing the existing at grade crossing and reducing repeated severe closures at the crossing, including impacts to life-threatening calls for first responder service, as well as linking amenities on one end of the city to another. So the total cost of this project is $14 million with a funding gap of $3 million, which would be our proposed submitted request to Congressman Calvert. And just a quick status, this is a multi-year project and the design is currently 100% complete. The next project we talked about was CIP 20-01 or the Scott Road / Bundy Canyon Road widening. This project is currently in the environmental and design phases. Plans are at 60% completion stage. Funds for right-of-way acquisition have not been identified yet. This project is an existing 2-lane regional facility which provides regional east-west connection between the I-15 and 215 freeways, linking the cities of Wildomar, Menifee, Murrieta, and unincorporated areas of Riverside County. Additionally, it has experienced increased traffic demand due to the residential and commercial development along the corridor. Due to the rural and narrow conditions of the roadway, Scott Road and Bundy Canyon Road has seen an increase of vehicle collisions from moderate to severe accidents. The Scott Road, Bundy Canyon Road widening project will widen the existing 2-lane road to a 4-lane major arterial within the city of Menifee from Sunset Avenue to Hahn Road. The project will address roadway geometry issues, upgrade drainage facilities, and provide dedicated bicycle lanes on both sides. This improvement project will significantly improve driver safety and reduce accident fatality along the high-traveled multi-jurisdiction corridor. The cost for this project is $30 million with a funding gap of about $12 million. The next project staff discussed was CIP 1401, which is the Mccall Boulevard Interchange. So this is also a multi-year project. And it's an existing freeway connection facility which includes on and off ramps and a 4-lane overpass with dedicated on-ramp single left turn pockets. This facility was originally built in the 1960s and has gone through major earthquake retrofits and damage restoration. Additionally, Mccall Boulevard is an existing 4-lane major thoroughfare which connects the historical senior community of Sun City to the west, Menifee Global Medical Center, master plan communities of Legato and Heritage Lake, and unincorporated areas of Riverside County to the east. Mccall Boulevard, as you are aware, has experienced increased traffic demand due to large residential and commercial developments on the east side of the I-215 freeway. The increased traffic currently creates severe traffic congestion during peak hours. The facility is severely impacted with traffic now and is not constructed to its ultimate design to withstand forecasted traffic in the near future. This project from Sun City Boulevard to Encanto Drive will improve regional traffic circulation by widening the overpass and approaching lanes from 4 to 6 through lanes and dedicated double left turn pockets at the freeway access point. The highway overcrossing feature geometry realignments of the on and off ramps, improve pedestrian and bicycle accessibility, improve lighting and aesthetics. The total cost for this project is $35 million with a funding gap currently noted as $15 million. So we also wanted to provide alternative options. After speaking with staff, doing some research and speaking back and forth with Congressman Calvert's staff, it seems that the projects they are looking at funding will be the funds will be more as gap fillers. They can only submit 10 requests, so the projects they won't be able to. It sounds like they won't be able to fund projects that are millions of dollars. So with that being said, we are putting a higher emphasis on the Bradley Road Bridge over Salt Creek project. However, we do have the other two CIP projects as our priorities, but we also have a PD priority project. There is a category for commerce, justice, and science under the COPS technology and equipment. And just a brief background of this category, funding will be provided for community project grants for state, local, and tribal law enforcement to develop and acquire effective technologies and interoperable communications that assist in investigating, responding to, and preventing crime, provided that such equipment meets the applicable requirements of the National Institute of Standards and Technology, Office of Law Enforcement Standards. So this funding will allow recipients the opportunity to establish and enhance any of the variety of technical equipment and or programs to encourage the continuation and enhancement of continuing policing efforts within their jurisdiction. And after talking to PD staff and our executive staff, their priority project are in-car cameras for police fleet. The approximate cost for this is $543,000 over 5 years. These in-car cameras are dual view cameras. They are interior, live streaming and local updates. They are also 24-hour video recall. As mentioned previously, it is $543,000 for 5 years, but $208 a month per vehicle for 40 vehicles, which has unlimited storage and investigative resource. And just a brief background on the need, in December of last year, the department was approved to increase sworn personnel by 9 officers, bringing the total number of sworn personnel to 68. The creation of Menifee PD has resulted in the need to purchase large quantity of equipment to sufficiently outfit the officers and has created the opportunity to explore the newest technology to meet the ever-changing environments. Additionally, the Axon Enterprise, Inc. is the industry leader in camera technology, specializing in body-worn cameras, in-car systems, and digital evidence management for the past 24 years. Menifee PD currently utilizes the Axon body-worn cameras for all field staff. The addition of the in-car camera systems in patrol vehicles will create a wider net of transparency and documentation in this information-driven age. Additionally, this reactive tool will expedite the investigative process and provide conclusive evidence of guilt or innocence involving criminal cases. So I also wanted to note that we have received a few letters of support. We're still expecting to receive more. As mentioned earlier, the due date to submit for these projects is Friday. The letters of support we received so far are as follows. For the Bradley Road Bridge over Salt Creek project, we've received letters of support from the Riverside County Flood Control and Water Conservation District, Santa Rosa Academy, and the Senior Advisory Committee. For the Scott Road and Bundy Canyon Road widening project, we've received a letter of support from the Quail Valley Community Group. For Mccall Interchange, we have received a letter of support from Leadership Ministries, Inc., and we've received several letters of support for all 3 noted CIP projects, which includes Southern California Association of Governments, County of Riverside Transportation and Land Management Agency, Transportation Department, also known as RCTD, the Riverside County Transportation Commission, Loma Linda University, Western Riverside Council of Governments, and the Menifee Parks, Recreation, and Trails Commission. Additionally, with the PD application, we do have some supporting documents, which is a documentation on the impact of video evidence on modern policing, which includes research and best practices from the International Association of Chiefs of Police study on in-car cameras. As mentioned, also mentioned a few minutes ago, we will be receiving more letters of support. I believe our economic development director noted earlier that Menifee Global will also be submitting a letter of support for the CIP projects. The recommendation is to adopt a resolution authorizing and supporting the submission of the CIP projects. However, the resolution does authorize the city manager or designee to substitute for another project. And if that is done, I believe deferring to Sarah on that process, if we do decide to change the project at this meeting, then we will bring back a revised resolution at the next meeting, correct?
You'll miss the deadline, right?
Yes, there is a way, and Jeff Melching might be able to give some information as well, but that we can still move forward and submit it with a minute action that I can provide with the documentation and bring back just to ratify that change at the next meeting.
So Mayor, this is Jeff Melching. The resolution, as it's currently authorized, gives the city manager the authority to substitute out one of the 3 identified projects for another project, if that'll increase the likelihood of receiving federal funding. That's section 6 of the resolution. So what we would propose to do is if the council, for example, tonight thought that it was more important to go after the cameras, the public safety issue in lieu of one of the other 3 projects, we would actually ask that you adopt the resolution as is. And then the city manager would exercise his authority to make that substitution. That allows the resolution to be adopted by the deadline. And then so that the record is clear in the long term, we would just bring back a clarifying resolution for the consent calendar at the next meeting that would formally list the 3 projects that were ultimately submitted. And that would really not be done for any reason other than, if you can imagine 2 or 3 or 5 years from now, somebody trying to go trace back through the resolutions and figure out what happened, that would make it clear.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Melching. Mr. City Manager, do you want to share something?
Yeah, just wanted to add that the 3 projects that we listed were projects that were deemed to be within the requested time frame. They did ask that the project be implementable this year and be shovel ready. Obviously, we have a lot more projects on our CIP list, but none of them are as advanced as these 3 are. So certainly you may choose to, if you wanted to bring up another project, we could entertain it, but the caveat here is that they want projects to be realistic in the next year, right?
Yes. So funds would need to be spent within 12 months once they're allocated. So I did want to note that. And I also wanted to note that the hard deadline to submit the applications is Friday. However, if we do receive some additional letters of support or some supporting document next week, we can submit those at a later date as well.
Okay, so Mr. City Manager, do you anticipate one of the CIP projects falling off because it may not qualify?
So
and replace it with the
right. So
cameras?
If it is very unlikely that the 3 projects will get accepted, but if they do, we do think that the Mccall Interchange will probably take longer to implement, and that's where we can introduce the public safety one.
Okay.
Yes, and I'm sorry.
Bradley Bridge still is a qualifier. We're almost there. We got a funding gap of what, $3 million?
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as we have that, we can start construction. Because that one's already completed most of the design and environmental and all that, right? Okay. I think Councilman Leesmeyer, did you?
Yeah. Just a quick question, maybe more appropriate for the chief, but just in respects to the in-car cameras, just high level, I mean, not to get off topic too much, wasn't this part of the original budget for the PD outfitting, or is this a new upgrade?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Dave Gutierrez, one of the captains with the police department. So our desire has always been to do in-car cameras, but it was not a part of the original outfitting for our police fleet. We started off with our body-worn cameras with Axon. Also, our tasers are through Axon, so that's our program currently. And then this in-car camera system integrates with those 2 systems.
Okay. So conceivably, as the fleet grows, this cost will grow, and there's maintenance costs and that sort of stuff that kind of gets tacked on as well.
So if we do grow the fleet, we would have additional cameras that would need to be installed in the fleet, but this is a all-inclusive rate. It includes installation, software upgrades. After the end of the 5-year contract, we get brand new. They refresh all of the cameras, so it's there's no hidden fees or extra fees. That $208 per month per vehicle includes everything, including unlimited storage. They all now have automatic license plate reader technology, so that's going to be super helpful for us as well, that our entire fleet will have that technology on them.
And last question, there's no other grants or state from COPS grants or anything like that that would better suit this?
We do, the city does currently get a COPS grant. I think it's about $140,000 a year that comes in yearly, but it certainly wouldn't cover the cost of that entire project.
Okay, thanks.
So a question I have to our city manager, do you feel like at this time, kind of what I'm hearing from the report, Imelda, thank you for a great report, very thorough, looking at maybe substituting the third project, which is Mccall at this time, and adding the police camera, is that something that we're looking at?
We could, yes.
Okay, all right, so that's something I feel comfortable with. I think it will give us maybe a larger opportunity as a city to have a choice. I know police cameras are a big thing right now with government in the United States, and so if we can go for it, I think that would be great. I mean, it would be great to get also Bradley Road Bridge gap taken care of. That would be huge.
Yes.
So let's go for it.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Councilman Dinas?
Real quickly then, the reason for eliminating the Mccall interchange is because it would not meet the 12-month?
No, we're not proposing that we eliminate it. We're just
Out of
offering options.
out of those three.
So we're going to continue to, if the council desires to present those three projects, is we will present the three projects. But if those three projects were to be picked up, we will have a harder time meeting the timelines with the Mccall Bridge, because it is we're only at what, 60% done with the design, Carlos? 10%. Yeah. So
Well, I didn't hear that. Well, how much?
10%.
10%. Okay,
10%.
so
So it'll take us a
realistically, then it'd be difficult to then meet the timelines for expending those funds then.
But it is a project that has regional-wide implications and could get picked up. In the event that later, 6 months from now, they decide to extend that to a 2-year program, then we could actually work harder to get it done.
Okay, thank you.
I'm very hopeful that we see something come from this.
I hope so too.
I know that when Mayor Pro Tem and I met with Ken Calvert, our congressman, earlier this year, and Imelda and the city manager were there as well, he was supportive of the Salt Creek Bradley Bridge project because he saw the value, he saw the need, he understood it, and he was supportive. So I got a pretty good feeling about it, and so
Keep our fingers
really,
crossed.
fingers are crossed. I was kind of thinking maybe our strategy is just submit one project and let that be it, and just it's doubtful that we'll see all three if he's only going to be able to support 10 out of his entire district. So we'll be lucky to get one, but anyway, I'm really hopeful that that's something that comes from it. Go ahead, Armando.
Yes, and Mayor, I know that we included in the presentation that we have gotten letters of support from agencies and organizations, but we're actually, doing a plea to the community too, that feel that one of these projects is important for them, that to submit letters to the congressman.
Yeah.
That would certainly help a lot too.
Yeah. I think I'll reach out to Sun City Civic Association and have them write something, because it cuts our city off, and folks in Sun City can't get across that bridge, across that creek, unless they get on the freeway. So
I believe they're
You'll be
working
there
on it.
Saturday.
I was somebody reached out to me about that yesterday.
okay, yeah.
So I think Sun City Civic Association is working on something, but if you want to
All
double
right,
check,
good.
that'd be great.
Good. I will check.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, you're gonna be there Saturday. You can talk about it.
I will talk about it then.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, can I just make the motion to approve?
Second.
Yeah, all right. Madam Clerk, if you could pull up our voting.
Oh, can I just say one thing for the record? Sorry, I almost forgot. This was a red folder item. And so we made a minor change in the staff report in Rezo to reflect the funding gap change for Bradley Road Bridge. And I think just to clarify that the city manager can replace with another project if deemed appropriate.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say that for the record that I understand that the Mccall interchange not being as far along as the other two projects, and understand that, you know, the in-car cameras for the police department are important and, you know, ready to go. But so I can understand that if you decide to do that, but I would like at the same time a commitment from staff that we continue working as a high priority the Mccall interchange and get past that 10%, so we'll be ready in case there is another round of funding.
Okay, duly noted. All right, let's finish our voting. I think we're waiting on you, Matt. Uh-oh.
Are you having trouble?
It just says waiting.
It's blinking on my end.
You can record my vote as a yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, very good. That passes unanimously. Let's go ahead and jump to our next item. That's 10.6, the CIP project for the Central Park Amphitheater for design with T.Y. Lin. Councilman Leesmeyer, you pulled this. What's your pleasure?
So I don't really need a staff report. I understand exactly what we're talking about doing. My questions are more revolving around, well, my headache is specifically with the cost, but a couple of things that I wanted to talk about just from a due diligence standpoint. When we last discussed this item, we spoke about the parking. I would really much rather see an update on where we are with how we're going to park this. I know that the existing residences in the area are already dealing with their own parking challenges without having this open. And then specifically in the contract from T.Y. Lin, or rather their qualifications document, they had some specific exclusions that for me were red flags. They specifically excluded dry utilities. They're not doing anything as far as the Edison coordination and understanding, what the power needs are going to be. There's no site lighting included. I know that we're not talking about, putting some big Musco system or something like that, but it seems to me that there's still some loose ends that need to be tied up before we turn the key on a $474,000 design project, which, according to exclusion 5.0, excludes fabrication drawings. So I'm just kind of scratching my head going, I don't feel like this is the right time for this. I feel like we have other things to be worried about before we turn the key on this design. So
If I may, for those specific items on the contract, I do have Robert Barton from T.Y. Lin on the line. If I can offer him to provide some explanations on those specific items.
Yes, good evening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. In terms of the dry utilities, we are doing electrical engineering that ties in the existing systems to the structure for the specific structure's lighting, the day lighting, the operational lighting, and things like that. In regards to the site lighting, that would be more along the lines of the lighting for like programmable lighting for the shows, and lights that attach to the lighting bars, things that people could take and move and apply later at a time. We are running the application to determine what the demands on those would be, and upgrading the current facilities to that. But the exclusion for the dry utilities, the existing power that comes to it, we're making the assumption that it's already ample for the needs of the amphitheater. And we can run an analysis to determine what it is, but the utilities and conduits that run to it are those things that are excluded because they've already been implemented, they're in the ground and they're ready to go. In regards to the fabrication drawings, the drawings that we'll be providing will be the construction level drawings. The as-built drawings are typically produced by the contractor themselves.
So specifically, so I guess my question for staff is, as he mentioned, this is not including the lighting that people would, obviously be able to attach maybe to a truss system or something like that for an event. So we don't know what that potential load could be. It says on here specifically, excluding any upgrading of existing electrical services. And as he said, they're assuming what is in the ground there. In my world, as a contractor, I don't like to deal with assumptions, especially when it comes to that sort of thing. So I would really like to find out if we are going to need to do anything else. And then the last thing, and I don't know if you answered this one or not, sir, but the question about not having fabrication drawings, is that something specific that we're going to need to do with another party? I guess overall, I'd like to see a complete package to understand what the total cost implications are and not have something piecemeal.
Mr. Barton, on the electrical item that Councilmember Leesmeyer is asking about, could you maybe clarify that a little bit? Because I know we did provide you all the electrical plans for the park and all the load information on the panel that is existing there at the amphitheater.
Yeah, and we did do an analysis of that existing panel and the tie-ins. I think the big question mark comes in terms of if you've seen the renderings that show the night details and the decorative lighting and things like that, that there's still a little bit of design that will have to happen during the analysis for that. And so I think what we were hoping to do is coordinate with the city for that special event lighting that's separate from the structure's lighting itself. So there's the two separate systems, the lighting of the structure itself, the mood lighting per se, and then on top of that would be any special lighting where an event would come in, a band or something like that, and want to hook up lights to it. We will be planning and doing the design of those connections and giving recommendations for what goes in there. In terms of the electrical panel that goes in and the conduits and the runs and things like that, those we're presuming are to be ample based on the analysis that we've done, but we'd like to get all the way through the design first to determine needs and design. So at this time, we don't have that design yet, but we're looking forward to really doing it for you and getting the best design possible.
Mr. Barton, also a point of clarification, are the items that Councilmember Leesmeyer is bringing up, are you saying that those are items that through the design we do, is that the time we answer those questions and make that determination through the engineering, through the design of the project, starting from the conceptual that we have? Is that what you're saying?
That's correct, that we'll be collaborating with the city on the design of that lighting. We presented a few of those options, but through the course of the design and the collaboration, we'll determine what the actual demand would be. Some of the great coordination we had with the ad hoc committee meetings were to discuss those lighting options and pick and choose what's good, and we presented multiple options. And through the collaboration process we'll have in the design is being able to refine that analysis and get it to where we need it to be.
So I appreciate you answering the question for him, John. I'm just not really sure that it answers my issues with respects to having a complete package. I'm wondering if we can maybe break up the contract into a phase where we, get some more definitive answers on this. For me, and I'm echoing some of the mayor's concerns at the presentation, it's very expensive.
It's very expensive.
And I'm struggling to understand how we get to $474,000 for design. Right. That's just an astronomical number, and I'm understanding that we didn't even shop that number. I understand that TYLN did do the actual design, and it certainly lends to continuity to keep them on board to fulfilling the full project. But I really think we need to sharpen our pencils here.
May I make a comment? So the ad hoc committee consisted of 4 people for the last year and a half.
I was not a part of the ad hoc committee, so I'm
I
not
know.
aware of what happened there. I'm hoping you can answer my questions here.
So it's not just for design. You made a comment that this is for design. It's not just for design. It's for the building of it as well. The ad hoc committee wanted a project and a facility in our city that would be sophisticated and premier, an architectural building that would be timeless and a centerpiece for our city. We have nothing like this right now.
I respectfully understand where
So-
you're coming from. I just want to make the point that I'm not willing to do that to, cut off my nose to spite my face.
So-
we need to sharpen our pencils.
So I would ask that you would trust the ad hoc committee that met, the four individuals, and let us move forward and get this project started.
Councilmember Sobek, respectfully, I trust the ad hoc committee. I don't trust the rest of the process. So as a contractor and somebody who deals with contracts and deals with designs day in and day out, I need to see more.
So all I can say is that I hope you will reconsider and let us move forward with this project. It's a much needed project in our city. And as you can see from the staff report, they talked about the multiplier effect. For every dollar spent for people coming to visit this theater, there will be a $3 effect. And in the staff report, it gave how much revenue over the 20 years that this project will bring to the city. I just ask you to reconsider your thoughts.
I hear you on that point. However, again, those are speculative numbers, and I reviewed the cost analysis that was provided by Kaiser Marsden, and again, they're speculative numbers, and most of the numbers that we're hoping to gain from this are what you call ancillary. It's, people shopping here or going to the hotel there, doing those sorts of things. But we haven't even seen a potential programming package to understand that those benefits are even available.
So one thing that was shared with us during the ad hoc meetings at the most recent at the end is that materials have skyrocketed. And the longer that we wait, the materials are going to increase. That is why we saw the numbers go up a little bit. They were giving us an example, as I mentioned at the last city council meeting, about just lumber and the increase. And as we see with this COVID relief bill that our government's providing, there will be a lot of work that will open up in cities and counties and states, and materials are going to get more scarce. There will be contractors that will be able to pick and choose projects, and I believe now is the best time if we can get started on this. So that's a concern that I have down the road, knowing that already my husband's been asked to go back to work in construction. They're needing that leadership, and they're seeing the work coming forward, and we're only going to see those costs increase. So that would be something that is concerning to me.
So I'll just leave with this. Respectfully, again, I understand the position you're taking on this. However, I as a steward of the community and the people that I serve, I need to see an all-in cost. I do not have the luxury of offering an open checkbook when we're still trying to figure out where everything goes.
Well, I don't either, so.
All right, Councilman Dinas?
Yes, when the ad hoc committee was put together, it was for the purpose of coming up with a design at very high level. We did discuss that there was power that went there because there was existing power already at the back of the existing stage that's there. We talked somewhat about that there's no wet utilities down there, so because we asked about putting restrooms or something back there, but since there's no other utilities there and there's some other obstacles that we shelved that. At the same time, this is a signature mark for the city, and quite frankly, I think that if we can't all agree as a council to go forward with it, we need to I think step back and address some concerns that some of the council members have, address that and then move forward. It's a great project. It'll be a beautiful amphitheater for our city. It'll be a feather in the cap, but I think we need a united front on that. And if there's questions and concerns, let's address it now and then move forward on it, so that we all can be on the same page.
Dean, I really appreciate you saying that. I'm fully behind you. It's a great project. Excuse me, a great project, and it will be a pillar in our community. I just need a little bit more.
Right. No, I understand. That's what I'm saying. We need
a little bit more.
We need to have all the questions answered for the entire council, so we can, as I said, be on the same page and do it in unity here of moving forward with this instead of on maybes. We never talked about the fact that there was just an assumption that the power that ran there would be sufficient for the lights, because it was never brought up at the level that we were looking at it. Until you brought this up, it was never thought about. Maybe that, I don't know what staff can do, but we need to, address your problems, your concerns, so that you're comfortable in moving forward with it as well. How we go about doing that, I'll have to ask staff, because they're more. I'm not a construction expert on how to best do it, but I certainly want the rest of the council to want to be with us and let's go forward with it. But we have to make sure that we're doing it the proper way, and that we're just not, like I said, blank checkbook type of thing.
To throw staff a bone here, I think I would be open to, if you were able to find out and carve out a portion of T.Y. Lynn's contract that specifically got to some of the root concerns that I've only addressed. The mayor hasn't spoken, and I don't know if anybody else has any concerns. But if you can carve out a portion of that contract and get to that box, then I'll be okay. I'm not even asking you to get a competitive bid, which I should be doing as a good steward of the community, because $474,000 plus a 10% contingency is just ridiculous. But I think you can get there.
If I may, I believe Mr. Barton was attempting to make a comment.
Yes, I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt. I did want to add that one of the design features that we're implementing into the structure itself is a significant amount of newer lighting, LED lighting, which has a significantly less draw than predominant amount of amphitheater lighting that's previous. We are fully confident that the existing utilities are there, and I realize and understand the concern about the exclusion for the utilities that lead up to it. I think our intention to leave that out is because we were under the assumption, based on our preliminary design, that it was good and the lights that we're putting in would be sufficient. And so we didn't see any need to make any changes to those existing utilities.
And Mr. Barton, with that being said, I believe Councilmember Leesmeyer is looking for more detail on that, those electrical specifications, the lighting, some of the fabrication information, and if that's the desire of the council to maybe flesh out that information, make sure this proposal is complete. If that's the desire of the council tonight, we could possibly do that and bring the item back.
I don't specifically need like a fixture count or anything. I just want to make sure that we have all the pieces of the puzzle put together.
We hear you.
Okay.
Councilman, are you comfortable with continuing this and having it come back to us?
That would be my request, yes.
Okay. All right. Staff, is there any concern about continuing the item? Are we under the gun or time of the essence kind of a thing? Can we wait for our next meeting?
I know the council direction was to try to move this project forward and try to get a groundbreaking hopefully by the end of the calendar year. So, there might be a slight delay in that expectation if we have to delay it a couple weeks. But other than that, if the council is willing to give us a little more time, maybe do groundbreaking more in January instead of December, then there's not an issue with that.
Absolutely, I'm fine with that. If we need to save $100,000 or a huge mistake, I'm absolutely okay pushing it out.
Okay.
But we're in April, so anything's open.
Yep. So did you make a motion?
That would be my motion. We continue the item.
All right, and I'll second the motion. Let's see how it does.
For Mr. Melching, do we want to go date certain or leave it open?
You do not need, this is not a public hearing, so you don't have to continue to a date certain.
Thank you.
All right, so that passes unanimously. We will continue items. I'm sorry, no? So you know what, Lisa, I don't get a report out here that says who voted what.
Thank you, Dean, I appreciate it.
Madam Clerk, can you tell the results of the vote, please?
Yes, it did, the motion did pass. Dean Dynas was yay. Matt Leesmeyer was yay. Lisa Sobek was nay. And Bill Zimmerman was yay.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, there's, unfortunately, it doesn't tell us that, so. All right, so we look forward to hearing more about those details that Councilman Leesmeyer brought up. All right, let's move now. We are on item 11. This is our public hearing items. We're on 11.1, and this is Western Riverside County Multiple Species Habitat Conservation Plan, better known as MSHCP. This is an ordinance and a local development mitigation fee update. Mr. City Manager, would you introduce staff who's going to provide the report?
Yes, Mayor and council members, we have Molly Bernal. Is this your first presentation? Second presentation. She's going to do us a favor and present this project.
All right, welcome, Ms. Bernal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, honorable council members. Thank you, Armando. Good evening. I have the honor to present this item to you. I also want to let you know we do have some members from our CA staff on standby if we have any questions specifically for the item after the presentation. Just a quick little bit background on this. Menifee is a member of the Western Riverside Regional Conservation Authority, or RCA, along with 18 other cities within the Riverside County. The RCA's purpose is to establish land reserves and to protect the species covered by the MSHCP. The member agencies, along with the city of Menifee, include all the cities in the Southwest Riverside County area. The MSHCP was established in 2004. It is a comprehensive multi-jurisdictional habitat conservation plan that focuses on a goal of acquiring 500,000 acres of permanent conservation land and the protection of 146 species. It was developed as a response for the future growth opportunities and while maintaining and addressing the state and federal Endangered Species Acts. The implementation of the MSHCP accelerates the construction of infrastructure and development, reduces project costs, and provides permitting efficiencies. Without the MSHCP, each project would need to conduct individual assessments and mitigations of the impacts of their construction. This would be much more expensive for developers and take significantly longer times to process. One of the benefits of being a member of the MSHCP is the local Measure A sales tax funds that we receive on an annual basis. Last year, the city received $1.8 million that will be specifically used for our local roads, streets, and improvement projects. In 2003, RCA conducted the first nexus study to establish the Local Development Mitigation Fee, or LDMF. This pays for the land acquisition that we are responsible to provide per the MSHCP agreement that we signed when we became a city in 2009. The fee is applied to residential, commercial, industrial development, as well as civic projects and infrastructure. It's a pass-through fee, so even though it is paid to the city, we submit those payments in full to RCA on a monthly basis. And the original implementation plan allowed allowed agencies 25 years to provide the required conservation acreage to RCA. That 25-year period would have ended in 2029. And this fee plan and the MSHCP implementation agreement were adopted by all of the agencies that are a part of the MSHCP. Since the original LDMF fee was adopted, it has not been updated since then, so a new Nexus study was conducted in 2020. And the update was needed to ensure there would be adequate funding available to complete the reserve land acquisition and fulfill the agency's responsibility per the MSHCP agreement. After analyzing the current economic situation, inflation rates, and fee models for a 5-year, 10-year, and 15-year extension period, RCA determined the best course of action for all agencies would be to adopt the lowest fee evaluated in the Nexus study, which extended the land acquisition period by 15 years, which will now end in 2044. On December 7th, 2020, the Board of Directors adopted the 2020 Nexus study and the MSHCP mitigation fee implementation manual. And being mindful of the increase in the fees, the board also adopted a phased fee implementation schedule, which will increase 50% of the fees will increase 50% on July 1st of this year, and 100% of the fees will become effective January 1st, 2022. All member agencies are required to adopt the study no later than May for the July 1st implementation timeline. This is the phased fee schedule. These fees will apply to both public and private development projects. It is important to note the residential fees were calculated using the same cost per acre as applied to commercial and industrial projects. The key factors for this fee increase were due to lower than expected land dedications, also lower than expected regional infrastructure public contributions, and RCA's desire to implement a per gross acre fee to provide a more consistent and equitable approach for all land development types. This fee increase will support continued implementation of the MSHCP, as well as provide the funding necessary to acquire, monitor, and manage the 500,000 acres and ensure long-term habitat protection and maintenance. There will be a prepayment option available to developers before the fees become effective on July 1st. However, the developers need to meet the following requirements. They must have an approved planning application, such as a plot plan or a conditional use permit, and plans have to have been submitted to the building department for their plan review and have their building permit fees paid as well. For those projects that are specifically for a grading project, the same rules would apply to them as well, but for the engineering department. So they, as long as they have their plans into the engineering department for plan review and they have their grading permit fees paid, they would be able to participate in this prepayment option. Following the public hearing today, staff does recommend that the City Council approve and adopt the City of Menifee Ordinance for the MSHCP and repeal the Riverside County Ordinance number 810.2. That ordinance was the original ordinance we adopted in 2009. And as well adopt a resolution for the city to establish the MSHCP LDMF applicable to all the developments in the plan area. And at this time, I would be happy to answer any of your questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Benal. We appreciate that. We will go ahead and open it up for some questions, and the first one I see is Councilman Leesmeyer.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. If you could go back on the slides there, I was looking for my copy. Okay, here it is. There. So I'm just trying to understand the logic here. Oh, you had it back one more.
Oh, which one? This one?
Forward. There you go.
Okay.
Trying to understand the logic here. So if plans have been submitted for building plan review, you wouldn't pay permit fees until the plans are approved, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so I think all we're trying to say here is that building plans are approved.
Building plans are submitted and the plan check fees are paid.
Plan check fees,
Right.
okay, not
So,
permit
so,
fees.
right. So if, for example,
So
if we had a residential tract where there were 100 lots and they submitted the building plans and were issued permits for 10, but wanted to prepay for all 100, we already have them in the queue. We already have them in the process. We know that they're moving forward and it's a project that is ready to go. It isn't a project that we don't have any post-entitlement work currently moving forward.
Okay, so being that RCA is trying to make up this deficit, I presume that they're okay with prepayment?
Correct.
And are these stipulations that they created, or are these what the city of Menifee created?
These are existing provisions under our current processes and ordinance. So the RCA did give prepayment ability and function to each of the local jurisdictions to make that determination.
Okay, but they didn't have the stipulations of the building permits and the other thresholds and things like
No, those are existing
so those are
provisions.
ours on
Those
top?
are ours, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, council members? All right, hearing none, I'm going to open the public hearing. It is 8:21 right now, and just confirm, Madam Clerk, was this legally noticed?
It was legally noticed.
Did you receive any correspondence on this?
No, we did not.
All right, thank you. How about any public testimony emailed on this item?
I do have a request to speak from Patrick Ellis.
All right. Is he online, or are you going to read his email?
He is available to speak.
Okay, Mr. Ellis, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Fantastic. Thank you. Patrick Ellis, President and CEO of the Marietta-Wildomar Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank you for the opportunity to kind of speak about this. I brought this up before you in the past and wanted to just update you and let you know that I have been in the process of working with Ann and Aaron with RCA or RCTC about an alternative to the proposal, the proposed fees before you. Unfortunately, the way the fees are structured right now, it unfairly puts the burden on commercial and industrial. They were not able to be at the table when discussing this as far as the structure goes. But what's more important to it than that really is that with this proposal of the fee structure, it basically tells everyone that what we want in Western Riverside County is we want homes, we want rooftops, but we don't want the jobs to go with them. For us in Southwest Riverside County, it's extremely important because the smaller projects, the 50,000 to 100,000 square foot buildings, especially the light industrial, we know that those, 8 out of 10 times create the jobs that pay a living wage, that are good paying jobs that are usually small businesses, which is what we depend on tremendously. With the way these, the fee structure would be is we're talking about 115% increase on that type of a development. The way we struggle right now in Southwest Riverside County as it is for projects to pencil out, and now if we're putting an increased fee on top of that, it's going to make it that much harder for us to attract developers to come and build in our area. Instead, they're going to look to either go to the eastern part of the county, or to just, for that matter, if they're going to look at the eastern part of the county, they're probably going to look at Phoenix or Arizona because it's that much cheaper. This is something that's going to affect the way our needs for industrial. On top of that, as I've brought up in the past, the outdoor recreational developments fall within commercial industrial as well. So you're talking about fees on that as well, which may have something to do with your amphitheater that you were discussing a little bit earlier. I ask that you hold off on making a decision on this for at least 2 weeks. I know that you can still make your deadline. I do have a meeting set to meet with Aaron and Ann on Monday to discuss the alternative plans that I presented to them. And my hope is that you would hold off on that until we have the opportunity to at least discuss that. So I thank you again for the opportunity to bring this to your attention, and thanks for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. We appreciate your comments this evening. Madam Clerk, any other comments?
No, there are no other requests to speak.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to close the public hearing. It's 8:25, and council will open it up for discussion. I'll ask a quick question. Staff, how long has this been considered by RCA to make adjustments? I mean, is this something brand new, or have they been talking about it over the years? Do you know?
So in 2020, they noticed that there was a large gap in the amount of land that the cities have acquired for trying to get to that 500,000 acre goal, and they needed to assess why that gap occurred, and it's approximately 20%. We're lacking 20% of where we should be right now according to the original 25-year plan. So in response to that, they conducted the 2020 Nexus study and ran over fees, appropriate land acquisition goals, and then came to the conclusion of if we extend the project and the goals by 15 years, the land acquisition goals will be more acceptable to the agencies, and the fees would not be increased as well. So they did take some time to go over all of the options, and it seems that they did put the agency's interests first.
Okay, and then it was presented to RCA's board to discuss it, which would have been a very appropriate time to hear comments like Mr. Ellis's. We're hearing it tonight at the city level at the 11th hour, 11.9 hour. So it seemed like there might have been a little earlier time to make those negotiations or bring those comments, because fact is what Mr. Ellis said, he's got merit in what he's saying, and I do appreciate his concerns, and the last thing we want to do is stifle business and commercial and those things that we need. So but again, probably would have been a better discussion a little earlier, I guess is my point. Mayor Pro Tem Sobek.
Yeah, can I just add a couple of things, since I serve on that board and on the executive board as well. For the last 2 years, Chair Ingram from the city of Marietta has been the chair. From what I remember, in 2019, he started pushing the Nexus study and talking about it. And then in 2020, there was probably about 6 public hearings on it. We did hear a lot from our housing BIA. We heard from the BIA. We never heard from NAIOP, and and they are the National Association of Industrial and Office Properties. I do want to disclose that in my research, because this, nobody likes fee increases, right? And so after I started hearing from Mr. Patrick Ellis, I started doing a little bit of research on my own. And I did talk to our former county supervisor, Marion Ashley, who I understand was involved in establishing the plan. And he attended and went to Washington, D.C. and was part of establishment. He did mention to me that at this time, he's one of the biggest landowners in Menifee, and he's aware of the fees, and he said he couldn't think of a better time than now. He is planning on developing some property with commercial and industry, and he will be paying the fee because he understands the need for it at this time. So I just wanted to disclose that and share that with my colleagues.
Okay. Other comments, council members?
Well, I think just for Mr. Ellis's sake, I wouldn't say this is the 11.9 hour. I mean, he's He's been vocal the last 2 council meetings. He's gone to the RCA board and voices his concern there. So so it's not a surprise. I don't think that's a fair statement, Mayor Zimmerman.
Sorry.
So I think I'm scratching my head with this one because just last council meeting, we decided that we were going to postpone our diff increase. So why didn't anybody at the RCA board have a discussion about, hey, COVID's really kind of kicked us in the teeth. Maybe we should throw everybody a bone and postpone this until we start to recover. Did anybody have that discussion?
I actually had brought up more of a phased increase, a little bit slower. It didn't go anywhere. I believe Aaron is on the phone, and maybe it might help for him to share where the other cities are with this right now. I don't know if that would help, since it needs to be done by the beginning of May.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Zimmerman and members of the council. Aaron Hake, Deputy Executive Director at RCTC over Regional Conservation. That's a good question. There are several other cities that are moving forward. In fact, we just finished up a hearing in Norco where they approved moving forward with this. 2 other cities throughout the sub-region have also approved. They're both readings of their ordinance. And over the next couple of weeks, there are several others that are moving forward. And at this point, most of the cities, including the county board of supervisors who have unanimously voted to initiate their ordinance, are all moving forward at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other comments, council members?
I just real quickly, I realize even if we vote no, that just takes us out of the program. It doesn't, stop these fees. I must say that it's disappointing that there's a 16-year gap between the Nexus studies. I certainly hope that the RCA will learn from this and not, wait another 16 years to do it again, because essentially what's happened is those previous developers, got to pay the original amount, much less, and now we're putting it on the back of current developers to make up for lost time. It is what it is. It's just sad that it had to happen that way on the back of these developers. But I understand that in some regards it is a benefit to have it as a regional plan as opposed to everyone for themselves. So I'll support it, but I certainly hope that the RCA in the future will do it more regularly so that the fees won't jump up about 115% or something like that for industrial and commercial. That's a pretty big jump for something like that, which we could have seen it over time.
That was I made some comments to that similar. I actually asked Councilmember Leesmeyer if he served on the RCA way before I did, and I asked him if it had ever been brought up and why there had never been looked at as a fee increase in 16 years, and he was unaware either. I only found out as it came before me as a representative as well. So I agree with you. They made a little bit of a mistake. I believe now that they're under RCTC, that we've already seen some organizational changes, and they've heard us loud and clear. They also, loud and clear, they've heard the communication with higher staff, like how WRCOG meets with city managers and city engineers and planners, that they too will have those conversations much more in advance. So we have talked about those things, just let you know.
Go ahead, Matt.
Question for our city manager. I'm curious on the prepayment options that we're adding on top of this. The different milestones that apparently you're in policy somewhere. I'm wondering if we have the ability to revisit that and throw our own local development community a bone. I'm not sure what projects we have at what stage or where everybody sits in the pipeline, but if we have the ability to help out our own projects in the city, anybody that's trying to get something done or it might carry them over the hump if we can, allow them to prepay, if they're, maybe they submit their building plans, later on in the year or something like that. July is only a couple of months away. That's conceivably, the only people that could possibly do that are maybe the projects that are maybe coming to planning commission like next week, and that's about it. Because nobody else is going to go forward with CDs and have them ready for submittal that quick. I don't know that the existing policy offers enough to our own customers.
Well, that's a tough question. I think the issue of a prepayment was a compromise. It was so to speak, throwing the developers a bone when that time came to, typically how you structure these fee structures, that there's a milestone when you pull permits or when you get your CFO. In this case, I think the way the prepayment penalty was structured, it was more as a compromise. But certainly, if there's an appetite to revisit, maybe offering a prepayment penalty even before the entitlement process, I think we would have to probably sit down with RCA and talk about what the implications of that would be and how that would impact the conditions of the take permit overall. I don't know that there's any other city that does it, unless you're aware of any other city that has a prior milestone that allows that, but we can look into it.
I understand what you're saying, and certainly we want to continue the RCA to have their take permit, and the objective is just, certainly, as Dean elaborated too. I just don't know that the option that we're providing really helps anybody. I mean, we're talking about a 2-month window here. We're implementing the fee tonight, conceivably. I think this would have to go for a second read. So conceivably, there's about a 1.5 month window that people would have to be rushing to hurry up and submit their building plans, and by the way, have them approved to be able to qualify for the prepayment.
May I clarify? They don't have to have the building plans approved. They have to have them submitted, and adding the opportunity to do the prepayment at grading permit is something that we added for this to give an additional benefit. So if there are projects that don't have their CDs but have grading permits in with us, we've extended that prepayment. The challenge becomes a tracking mechanism. We need some sort of a permit to tie that fee payment to. Remember, it's a pass-through fee, and so for reporting purposes, we were hesitant to do anything beyond something tied to a post-entitlement permit itself. The other thing that we are cognizant of is should a project prepay and then for whatever reason stall or change, there's a limited window for a request for refund, and so we would be cautious and let the developers, make sure they understood that, because if they prepaid and something changed and they were beyond that window of a fee refund consideration, now we've created a challenge.
Council members, do we have any more discussion on this item? Madam Clerk, I think we need you to read the ordinance by title if you're able to.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
I did want to note that in your folders there is a strike-through version of the resolution. Originally, it included a repeal of a 2008 resolution that we do not need to repeal, and then just clean up on some numbering. So.
Okay, thank you for that. I do see that here. Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Menifee to update the local development mitigation fee for funding the preservation of natural ecosystems in accordance with the Western Riverside County Multiple Species Habitat Conservation Plan, and repealing County Ordinance Number 810.2 and replacing with Menifee Municipal Code Section 8.27 Multiple Species Habitat Conservation Plan fee.
So moved.
All right, so Lisa, we're going to do two things. We will have a motion to introduce the ordinance, and then we'll have a motion to adopt the resolution. Madam Clerk, do we need to do those separately?
Yes.
Okay,
So I make a motion, we introduce the ordinance.
all right.
I'll second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you read the results on that?
Yes, the motion does pass. Dean Dynas, yes. Matt Leesmeyer, nay. Lisa Sobek, yes. Bill Zimmerman, yes.
Okay, thank you. And then, Lisa, did you want to make the next motion to adopt the resolution?
Yeah, I make a motion, we adopt the resolution.
I'll second.
It's not letting me do a second one. Let me.
It's showing us the voting summary from the
Last
previous.
one.
That's something you've always wanted.
That's what I've always wanted, yeah.
I found out I was pushing the wrong button for you, so now I know how to get that to you.
Good.
But let
Now,
me.
do you know how to get rid of it?
Yeah, no, exactly. Okay, let's try this. Oops. Okay. How about that?
I think that's going to work. We have, oh, there we go.
And that motion does pass. Do you see? Oh, look here, let's try this.
Okay, so there we go,
Okay.
3-1. Got it. All right, so that motion passes, and we will now move on to our next item. Thank you, Ms. Menal. Thank you, Ms. Kittro, for helping us with that great presentation. All right, let's move to item 12. This is a discussion item. 12.1 is a JPA agreement regarding our insurance, city insurance. So I will turn it over to the city manager to introduce this item.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and council members. The request is to join a newly formed JPA as a result of the merger of our insurance carrier and another pool of cities. And traditionally, cities, rather than buy commercial insurance, they join what they call risk pools. We've been part of PARSAC since we incorporated, and PARSAC has made a decision to join another pool to become stronger. And this is for the purpose of providing us general liability insurance and workers' comp insurance. And the request is to join the newly formed JPA, which will be CIRA. And for that, we have a complete presentation for you. So.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. To go over the risk pools, here on the slide you have the structure. The item before you tonight is to adopt the joint powers agreement and bylaws for the California Intergovernmental Risk Authority, which is, as city manager called it, CIRA is what we're referred to it as. We're currently, as you know, we've been with PARSAC, as he said, since incorporation, and the reason to move forward with this merge is to provide the risk pools members better benefits. Rather than purchase commercial insurance, as the city manager said, through a commercial carrier, we participate in this risk pool that consists of groups that share the fund. The fund pays for the liability and workers' compensation claims and provide the risk management services to the city and the other agencies. Menifee's pool acts as an extension of the city, and it's governed by a board. I serve as a board member on the PARSAC board. When it moves over to CIRA, then it will, each member of each agency serves as a board member to make decisions for the pool and represent. So again, it acts as an extension of the city, and it is reviewed by each of the board members, and decisions are made by its members. The primary purpose of the pool is to manage and reduce the underlying risks and benefits to its members. So to go over a little bit of the background, currently, and I presented previously to you, PARSAC does have 34 members. It is relatively small. The vulnerability of the aggressive market and pools are competing for more members. So the larger pools leverage their assets to offer short-term rate reductions, programs, and services to attract new members. To address this, PARSAC has decided to merge its pool with the Redwood Empire Municipal Insurance Fund. I can't say that fast. REMIF. To bring its membership to 50, and their hope is to increase membership with this merge. More specifically, a larger membership will lead to long-term stability and sustainability by spreading risks through operating costs, result in more predictable funding and reserving forecasts, lower operational costs, and obtain better rates and coverage with the service providers of the excess insurance. Now to go a little, before we get into the request for proposal process that the staff went through, we did previously present this merge and the fact that staff would be going forward and requesting proposals from other insurance pools that are very similar. And going through that process, we did, it was a very rigorous process, by the way. Staff really drilled down on all of the costs and benefits that would be provided by the other pools. We only did get 2 other proposals from California JPIA, Joint Powers Insurance Authority, and PIRMA, which is Public Entity Risk Management Authority. This slide, before I get into their proposals though, this slide demonstrates what PARSAC's historical costs have been. And as you see here, in 1819, we were only at $617,000 for our premiums. 1920 was just over $1 million, and this year, 2021, we've jumped to $1.4 million. The big factor in our increased cost has been our employee count and our additional buildings that we've acquired. We are now in this building, so of course we have insure both this building and our former city hall, which houses the police department. But as you see in 1819, at the beginning of the budget year, we only had 93 employees approved. At mid-year, we added an increase up to 107. By 1920, we increased to 207 employees, and by mid-year for 1920, we were at 225. Now, of course, that was with the bringing on the police department. That was a significant increase to our employee count, and not only employee count, but workers' compensation is rates are based on the type of job performed. So someone who is clerical behind the desk in accounts payable is not going to have the same rate as our police officers, code enforcement, public works, streets crew. Anybody who has that higher level risk of a job has a different rate. So that all plays into our rates. Now for 2021, we did see a reduction because we froze positions, but by mid-year, we were back up to 241 for the employee count. So again, that really plays a big factor into our rates. Now, to touch on our current fiscal year cost at $1.4 million, that does include $261,492 that was due for fiscal year 1920. There's always an end of year reconciliation because what we do at the end of each fiscal year is we provide our payroll to our insurance agency for the year we're in. so that they can give us premiums for the next year. They base it on the employee count and the payroll. But as you've seen demonstrated here, our employee count keeps increasing. So they do a reconciliation at the end of the year, and if we did have a higher payroll, we have a balance due for our workers' comp premiums and so forth. So our actual premiums for 2021 were closer to 1.2 million. But as you see, we've already reported our current employee count to the insurance agencies to get the premium proposals, which we'll show on the next slide. This was included in the staff report, but this drills down to more detail of the differences in the cost proposals. We did come in with the lowest cost proposal from CIRA at 1.4 million. Cal JPIA came in at 1.5 million, and PERMA at 1.6 million. Now, the biggest variance is in the liability insurance, and I cannot give you the reason why that they each drilled down, asked us a lot of questions about our buildings that we have, our property that we have, and the rates. But they all have their own formulas within their own risk pools and their own coverages that they pass on. You'll also see in this breakdown that not each agency provided exact like coverage. You'll see that for the commercial crime, CIRA has the estimate of $2,000. It's optional for JPIA, so it's not even included, and we'd have to pay an additional cost for that. For the cyber liability, CIRA, we're at $5,700. It is included in Cal JPIA, so there are differences in every across the board. But when we ultimately looked at the services provided by each of these agencies and the premiums, CIRA did come in with the most services provided and the least cost. And I know this merge did cut their operational costs. They're merging their buildings. They're merging their some of the employees will stay the same, but for the CFO, they're not going to have two chief financial officers. So they've cut their costs across the board, which has been able to pass on to the members. So not only in the cost sense, but the actual services provided, CIRA has come out above the others. And to add on to that, our equity that was already within PARSAC is going to stay continued. We have $800,000 equity in, which is based on their building, which I can't remember the exact cost of the building, but the additional funding in the pool. So that was an additional benefit to us. Remaining with or joining CIRA is that we remain under PARSAC with that equity. So with that, staff is requesting that council approve the JPA agreement and bylaws. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Clayton. Council members, do we have any questions at this time? I see Councilman Dinas.
In the staff report, thank you. It was thorough. It had a lot of questions, and most have been answered, so I appreciate that. It shows the lines of coverage between PARSAC and REMIF. Now, when they then merge, all those lines of coverage will be available then.
Correct.
As opposed to like someone like the medical benefits, things like that PARSAC doesn't have, REMIF does, and it'll be then included in the new JPA then, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
And also, as I recall, there's a 2-year commitment by the city to stay with?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I thought I put that in the staff report, but yes.
I think it was, we discussed that when you first brought it forward. Okay.
That might have been an oversight. I might have not included in the staff report.
On the liability with the difference, is that where some of for having a police department then comes into play with the liabilities going up because now we carry more liability? Yes. Because we have a police department, not just the worker comp, but the liability of something happening out there and we get sued, all that good stuff.
Yes, correct. That is definitely, not only is an additional building, but it's also the security of the building, the makeup of the building, and the equipment, the fleet that we have is now much larger, so.
Okay, so,
not
but
just
that's
the
not
actual
if,
building, but the fleet.
if one of our police officers were involved in a shooting or got in an accident or something, that doesn't cover, this liability doesn't cover that, is that?
You
is
know,
that something completely different?
It does extend to this. I don't remember if it's covered specifically under the liability. I have gone through that process, and I do know that the insurance does cover it. We do have it's under our SIR rate, and we would still go
Okay, so
forward.
that's part of the overall bid then that
Yes,
we see.
absolutely.
Okay, those are my questions, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak on this item?
No request to speak.
Okay, floor is open for discussion or a vote, or a motion, I mean. Councilman Leesmeyer?
I'd just like to echo Councilmember Dice's comments. Thank you for the great, thorough staff report. I appreciate the comparing numbers and shopping around and making sure we're getting the best rate. And I think it goes without saying that with the leadership of these three back here, I think hopefully we can keep the liability costs down. So,
Yes. Yes, I'm on.
They're on board with that.
I'm all over it with them.
So again, I appreciate the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second.
I'm going to assume that passed unanimously, so we will now move to item 13. Mr. City Attorney Melching, are you online still? Do you have anything to report?
Mayor, I don't have any reportable action or anything to report, and I didn't have any reportable action either earlier, so.
Thank you for staying with us. All right, City Manager, do you have any reports, sir?
Nothing to report.
All right, council members, do we have any future agenda requests?
I did have a couple of questions, actually. One of the city manager wanted to follow up. There's been a email going around with one of the industrial developers on the south end of town with respects to a construction fence and some fencing that was taken down as a part of the development, Commerce Point. I just wanted to follow up on that. I think the city needed to fix some fencing down there as a part of the overall project. I didn't know if you had anything you could.
I don't recall, but I can look into it.
Okay. I just wanted to follow up on that. I hadn't seen much of a response, and I know the applicant was concerned about a deadline that they had. And then I did have one for future agenda requests.
Okay.
Sorry. I would like to agendize an item to discuss the 10% contingency clause in all of our contracts. I know it's standard practice in a construction contract because it's to account for the inflation of material costs. But in the case of one of our items tonight, it was a $47,000 open-ended item. I would certainly like to hear about a $47,000 change order coming forward. I think it sends the wrong message to our contracts that there's a lot of extra money there that could be found if they figure out a creative way to do it. So I'd like to have a future agenda discussion upon that.
I'll second that.
Thanks.
I've never been a fan of contingency because it always ends up getting
It's gone.
gobbled
Gets
up.
it away.
Yeah, but we'll talk about then.
Yep.
Any other future agenda items? All right, hearing none, we are on item 16. We are going to adjourn tonight in honor and memory of one of our own staff members, Mr. John DeGangi, who recently passed away. Mr. City Manager, you knew him best. Would you share a few words, please?
Yes. I had my
There we go.
mic off.
There, we hear you now.
Very instrumental in having our infrastructure for GIS built. We didn't have nothing at all, so he was assisting us in putting together all the technical and the software as well as the hardware that we need so that we can have a good foundation for GIS, and it proved to be very successful because when we were having to meet with the city of Murrieta to put together our police department beat system, he was very instrumental in making sure that the two systems talk to each other. So I said before, you know, John was one of our employees. He, in the 2 years that he was here, he made a difference. Earlier today, I asked to see one of the sympathy cards that staff has been circulating, and to my surprise, there were 3 cards, and the 3 cards were full of comments about the kind of person that John was. I think he touched a lot of people here at City Hall. He was a good mentor. Couldn't help reading a common denominator that John was a very good person, a very good friend to many people, and a very good mentor to a lot of them. So besides that, John was a good father, he was a good husband, and most of all, he was a good friend of mine. So I'm going to miss him dearly, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you for your heartfelt comments, and it's sad when we lose somebody like that, but our prayers go out to him and his family, and we will go ahead and adjourn in his honor.